if you were to be able to tomorrow eliminate all fentanyl from the region, there would be a lot of people who are experiencing severe addiction to a substance that would need support and help. And so we really have to work on that level as well.
He is Jim Browdy. I am Marjorie Egan. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Radio. You're listening to 89.7 GBH Boston Public Radio. We are streaming at, what are we streaming at, please, Jim?
I have no idea. YouTube.com/GBH News.
Thank you.
And Facebook.com/GBH News. When are we back here, Marjorie?
We are going to be back here on Tuesday.
We are.
Not the Friday after Thanksgiving,
Friday.
But we're going to be here with the governor on the Monday after Thanksgiving, although not at the Boston Public Library.
Yeah, excellent. Very well done. By the way, for those who need a lift, and who doesn't need a lift, in about, 25 minutes, we're going to talk to the folks from the Cherry Street Music about a concert this Sunday where they're celebrating the 100-year anniversary of Roland Hayes, the brilliant Roland Hayes, the first black performer to perform with the Boston Symphony Orchestra, again, just 100 years ago. And the music is stunningly beautiful. So please stick around or come on by or do something. So just as things seem to be revving up for the humble electric vehicle, industry executives say the industry is facing serious headwinds, despite sales topping 1 million this year for the first time ever. So we thought that we'd take this opportunity to gauge your feelings about EVs and specifically how today's political climate is making it harder to switch over. Red state, blue state divides, and then there is the toxic Tesla head, Elon Musk. Yes, I own a Tesla. We'll talk about that. The inspiration for this was a column by Renee Loth in the Globe. We'll talk more about it in a little with Shirley Young. The title was Electric Vehicles Are a New Flashpoint. It's unbelievable. In the culture wars.
Yeah.
And the premise essentially is that GOP pushback to EVs is making it harder to own one. Curbing an industry is just getting off the ground. Pushback to charging stations, tax disincentives. Get this, a bill filed in North Carolina last year that would remove every single electric charging station unless a gas pump is installed alongside it. It's been roughly 6 months, I think it was 6 months, since we did a check-in with you on this, the state of EVs. And will President Biden ever see his dream of 500,000 functioning charging stations come to fruition? 877-301-8970 to call or text. What's standing in the way of you going electric, or have you already gone electric, and are you happy? 877-301-8970.
I love the quote from the chairman of Ford Motor Company in the New York Times, William Clay Ford Jr., named after the company, I guess, Jim.
I would say he is.
He says he never thought he would see the day when our products would be so heavily politicized. Some of the red states say this is just like the fight over vaccines, and it's absolutely true. It was a great column by Renee Law. She talked about how in Texas has imposed a $400 registration fee for first-time electric purchases, and then a $200 annual renewal. And their claim is this compensates for lost in gasoline revenue taxes, but in fact the EV fee is 3 times what the average driver spends in gas taxes. So it is like the vaccines. It's become states that voted for states that voted for Donald Trump overwhelmingly hate electric cars, and other states, more democratic states like ours in California, are big into electric cars, and they're big into putting charging stations in so that people can charge them when they're on the road.
Let me just say one thing, if I may. You said that the president of the Ford Motor Company was named after the company.
Yes.
I would say the company was probably named after him and his family. I'm guessing the company came before the family did. By the way, let me tell you some more bad news, and then we'll get to the good news. The bad news is that while, as I just said a minute ago, I think I said this, that 1 million EVs were sold for the first time last year, it is plateaued at $100,000 a month, and a month, yes, and is not rising, not $100 a month, 100,000 cars a month. Thank you, Jim. But here's the good news, very good news. You know what the problem with the $7,500 rebate if you qualify is?
You have to wait for your taxes.
You have to wait for your taxes.
And they're trying to fix that.
Not trying, they have fixed it. Starting January, 2 months from now, when you buy your EV, assuming you qualify, US made, whatever the criteria are, when you buy your car, you get your $7,500 rebate on the spot, which is huge. You don't have to front the $7,500 and then get it back on your taxes. So we want to know a couple of things. How you feeling about EVs? If you don't own one, can you let us know why? And if you do own one, how happy are you? And I have to say, before people start trashing me, which they do every time we do this, I do own a Tesla. I explain why I bought a Tesla. I'll explain it again if I'm attacked. And it is, I mean, the guy proved he was an anti-Semite this week in addition to everything else.
That's right.
Musk, which makes it harder and harder. So I'll explain myself if you viciously attack me, and if not, I won't. 877-301-8978.
Well, I do think it's interesting when they got the Ford 150s, those big trucks you see in there all the time. Electric ones.
That's a great point.
They sold out, and that's really quickly.
A red state.
That's a red state kind of thing, and if it's a construction worker kind of thing. Well, because they're gas guzzlers, and gas was really expensive before. It was like
so it's a pocketbook thing.
It could have been a pocketbook thing, or it could have been that they're supposedly there are fewer parts, there less maintenance is required, that kind of thing. But I think that the thing with EVs mostly is the money. I mean, to get the $7,500. Every part has to be made in America, right? That's part of what the federal government did, and that has been difficult for people.
Yeah, but forget the rebate. The Model 3, which is the cheapest one, which is what I have of the Teslas, has gone down. In fact, almost the day I bought it, the price was dropped. That must have been a real bummer for you, Jim. It was a bit of a bummer. It has dropped precipitously. They're still not cheap, but some are cheaper.
Well, there's other ones that are cheaper.
Exactly.
There's the Chevy Volt is cheaper. The Hyundai makes one that's cheaper. I think it's the money.
The problem is a lot of people can't fit into some of those. That's an
well,
at least for.
Well, you are big.
I am rather big.
I think the average person can fit into them with no problem. And I think the fear about there not being enough charging stations if they're driving somewhere, going on a road trip or something like that. But I tell you what, your car, which you have been gracious enough to give me a ride in, Jim, is a fantastic car. And I was in one.
By the way, I know what you're going to say in a second, and I just want to deal with this up front.
What?
Marjorie, I have allowed Marjorie to ride in my car on a couple of occasions. I've told her not to touch anything inside of it.
That's right.
And that's
Don't touch.
It's just a personal eccentricity. That's all.
But another friend of mine also has a Tesla,
who's that?
and she showed me how it goes from 0 to 60 in about 2.5 seconds.
The acceleration is faster than a Porsche.
And my son-in-law just got one of the Hyundai EVs, and it's great. They're great cars. So I have just paid off my Toyota. But you know what? You know who's going to make more of these? Some of the car manufacturers are pushing back or lowering.
Toyota is the one that's leading that class,
going. So it's nice not to have a car payment for a while, but I'm going to get one of the
Can
Toyota
I tell you what
EVs.
A real problem? I know we're going to hear this, and then I will shut up, and we can go from there and take your calls. The charging access is a real problem. I mean, for example, there's a charger across the street at the Lenox. It's one of those mid-level things where you get 20 miles an hour. If you don't have access to or own a Tesla, I know it's going to be made available for non-Tesla owners. I think it either has been or soon will be, where you can charge 300 miles in 45 minutes. It's a real pain in the you-know-what. And so high-speed chargers have to be made available, and every car needs access to them, or that's going to be a huge obstacle, even if they're able to make the price more
reasonable. And our producer, who has a electric car, seems to have spent an awful lot of time. That is a Ford Mustang, I believe, Jamie?
Yeah.
Seems to have been in the shop more than it's been here.
Mine was in the shop for 4 weeks, too.
So I don't know if that's an issue. I mean, the beauty of Toyota is for a lot of people that buy them, I've bought them for years, is you never have to spend any money on them, and you almost never have to fix them. So I don't know what the deal is. I hope the deal with the Toyota electric will be better. But anyway, let us go to the calls. Megan in Whitman, you are first on the Electric Vehicle Hour.
Hey, Megan.
Hello. Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you.
For me, it's just cost is, of course, number one. And then I'm probably just undereducated, but I understand that electrical production is highly pollutant, and I don't know where the electricity would be coming from. I haven't heard a plan like to have more wind or more solar. and also for
What do you mean?
disposing of the batteries.
What do you mean there's not a plan to be? There's huge plan. I mean, for example, Vineyard Wind just unveiled their first of 62 or 63 turbines.
But I know the thing
a couple
about the
weeks ago.
electricity. We've asked this to Bill McKibben a million
What's that?
times. The electricity is not great, Megan, but it's better than the fossil fuels. It's better than
mean the
gas.
manufacturing
Yes,
thing?
it's much better than the gasoline. And the disposal of batteries is not great either. But again, it's better than the fossil fuels, which are the things that are really kind of setting us on fire or flooding us at the moment.
Well, that's not a good enough answer. The good answer to battery disposal is not to worry about it because the whole world's going to be underwater by then. So we really don't need to worry about it.
I'll tell you one
Megan,
other thing.
thank you for your call. I
remember
hope
when
you
I
can afford one soon.
got my first hybrid, which was many, many years ago. I think it was 2006 or 2007. Everybody told me, oh, the battery is going to cost you a fortune for the battery. Well, I've had two hybrids now, one for 12 years, the Highlander, that you never need.
We had the exact same car, different colors.
So that was kind of, I think that was kind of people throwing, trying to douse the enthusiasm
So
for
to
these
speak,
hybrid cars. And one I've gotten now, there's no battery issue. It's the regular battery is the one you've had to replace, not the hybrid battery.
877-301-8870. We're doing our, I guess, semi-annual, is that what it means, twice a year? Semi-annual check-in on the EV front. Harold, you're on the road. You're on Boston Public Radio. Hi.
Hi, I've owned my Nissan Leaf for more than 10 years now.
Wow.
It's been very low maintenance, no oil changes. I don't have a ton of miles on it, but I mean, just new brakes, new small battery. In February 22, I thought, well, I wasn't so happy with my 60-mile range. It had dropped from 100. And a shop in Lawrence swapped out the battery with a battery from a wrecked newer Nissan Leaf. And so now I have 135 miles of range.
Great.
And I'm very happy with it.
You know, can I speak to that? I'm glad you called, Harold. The Model 3 Tesla I have is 310-mile range or something like that. Whatever it is, a lot of people hear Harold and say, well, he was able to get to 135. That's not a lot. Before you get upset about that, the vast majority of the driving that all of us do is short-range driving. You're saying in your head, what happens when I go to the Cape? Well, you're not going to the Cape all the time, and you find a charger on the way. So 135 miles for, I'm assuming, the vast majority of what you do, Harold, is plenty, right?
Look, I live in West Roxbury, which doesn't require, you don't have to commute far to get to shopping or the library or my work or anything. Mm-hmm. And so I think a lot of people don't realize around here that your commute is way, way below than your 310-mile range, or even my 135-mile range. And by the way, with Nissan and probably with Tesla as well, when you travel farther, you can arrange to charge at the dealership. So that's how I took this car to the Cape a few years back. I drove to the Hyannis Nissan.
Oh, that's great.
Charged there for 2 hours. And then I the line current at a rental. And so I could use the car on our whole week-long Cape trip, no problem. Charge it once on the way back. And otherwise, I charge in my garage.
Harold, I love it. That was a perfect call. Thank you, and I'm glad you're happy. He's owned a Nissan Leaf for 10 years. I didn't even know it was around for 10 years.
Yeah, we have somebody else who bought a Nissan Leaf 2 years ago. They love it. They're concerned, though, about the lack of the quick charge as well. And listen to this from Michelle in Rhode Island. I have an electric car that runs on my solar panels. I'm ahead of the curve. Everyone will catch up when the prices go down.
Can I tell you something? As you know, I've never cared about issues like acceleration, but since you mention it, we have a friend who shall remain unnamed who's fairly Porsche obsessed. Is that a safe assumption?
Yes.
And he's the one, I think he's the one who told me, or maybe I told him to make him jealous, that the acceleration, is it on all electric vehicles or just, I think it is.
I don't know.
It's like incredible. And even if you don't care about it, which I didn't think I did, once you have it, when your car's not in the shop, Jamie, does it accelerate quickly? It does, but it's in the shop all the time. We should be transparent. He has a Mach-E, is that how you pronounce it? Was in the shop for 2 months in 2022. Same issues back now, will probably be out of commission until 2024. I'm not laughing at you, but it is what it is. So I hate that expression. Why do I use that expression? In any case, 877-301-8970. What are you doing?
I'm getting a lot of text messages from people who bought EVs and
what
love
are
them.
they saying?
They
Great.
love them. They
Great.
love them. Yeah, so I'm looking for people that don't love them, and I'll find one soon.
Well, good.
The people that that don't are worried about the cost, and the charging station is the same thing the story says.
Anybody who has one who doesn't love it so far? Or no?
Not yet. Not yet.
Except Jamie.
That's right.
And who's ruining the whole spirit of the show yet again. And in Westminster, you're on Boston Public Radio with Marjorie Egan and me, Jim Browdy. Hey.
Yes, love your show.
Thanks.
Long-time listener,
Thanks.
first-time caller. But
Thanks.
we built a net zero home, insulated concrete form, passive solar.
Wow.
About 4 years ago. We are connected to the grid, but off the grid. We built it for ADA light, so we can age in the home. We have permaculture all around. So we
Permaculture?
electric vehicles.
I'm glad you asked. What's permaculture?
What's that?
Permaculture is that's a whole nother story that maybe you can have on about the PFAS in Westminster. I can talk a lot more about that.
Oh, we
as
know
well.
PFAS. I don't know about Westminster, but go ahead, Ann.
Those
Keep
are the
going.
chemicals,
Westminster
forever
has
Forever
chemicals.
chemicals. Go ahead. What?
Yeah,
Ann?
it has the highest level in the state.
Yeah. Oh.
Because of a compost facility.
Okay.
So anyway, but we are off. We're connected to the grid,
Oh, we're off
but
the grid.
we actually get a check back every month. We
You do?
charge our cars from the home. Yep. We barely have to turn on the heat or the mini splits because an insulated concrete form. It was the one house remaining after Hurricane Maria. It's the house of the future. We should not be building stick homes.
Can I tell you something, man?
And so-
I have no idea what you're talking about, and I'm excited by it. I mean, I'm serious. It is unbelievable.
My house, no.
Go ahead.
No, so we had a vision for this about 15
That's
years
pretty
ago.
obvious,
We had
yeah.
to get people in. So insulated concrete form is basically like styrofoam Legos, and you put rebar in, and you solar map the house. So you
Okay.
harness solar. You can't, and so we.
Can you send us a picture of this thing?
Or an email.
Yeah, how about email us, BPRWGBH, or
Yeah.
send a picture.
It sounds
Yeah,
great.
no, I mean we have a hidden gem here, and
You
I want
apparently
to
do.
just get it out that.
Well,
it can't-
send us a
it can't
picture
be
and we'll
done.
call you again or something. That is, whatever you're doing
the
is great.
email?
By the way,
Yeah,
you're,
you can send the email.
BPRWGBH.org. You're not like those crazy people in, you're not like those people in Minnesota in the PBS document. You have like one garbage bag a year.
No. Our house is beautiful. People, you would.
No, I didn't mean it wasn't beautiful. I meant they have done something so they only have.
How much does this house cost you to
I think
build?
that's what you're trying to say.
It was probably about 30% more, but we built it small.
Yeah,
So we
okay.
built it for multi-function.
Okay.
Well, what does
space. We
30%
built it
more
for
mean? It was like
98%.
a lot. I mean,
30%
what's the
more.
money? What's the dollar figure?
Well, it depends on the.
Well, we don't care. We don't care what it is.
Okay.
It's great you've done what you've done, and
No,
we
the
love
point
it.
is, I think that what she's done is
Yeah, but you
wonderful,
save in the long
but
run.
it's probably
She's off the
expensive.
grid or not off the grid or something.
Now,
And,
by the way,
Ann, send us the picture.
I
Thank
should
you.
point out that in places that are getting, like battery factories and infrastructure from the infrastructure bill that was passed, like Brian Kemp is not exactly, he's a Republican in Georgia, and Georgia's a pretty red
He's
state.
on the right side of this, isn't
Well,
he?
because, but he supports the EV transition because he got $22.7 billion
Billion?
and 28,400 jobs in related projects to EV, and that's
pretty good.
Right, and another Republican governor in Ohio with a $3.5 billion new battery factory, and Tennessee with a $5.6 billion Ford plant. They are the places, even though they're red states, that are embracing EVs because they're embracing the money they're getting from
You
it.
know, we have to take a break. Before we do, one of the things we pride ourselves on is even when we're critical of people, we try to be fair and balanced and honest about what they've done. We failed to mention, before we take a break, who invented the EV battery, we should say. George
that?
Santos. I mean, it's really, it's incredible that that's getting lost. And so he subscribes to OnlyFans with campaign money. I mean,
Yeah,
so
no,
Botox,
George Santos is finally
so
going
what?
down because we now know that he spent campaign funds on Botox and other things past muster. I guess the Botox was one step too far, and he's not running for re-election. He's in even bigger trouble than he was in before, which is hard to imagine. Anyway, we're talking about electric vehicles and why America has been slow to embrace them. We're doing it, but slowly. We'll keep the conversation going. Don't go away. How do you feel about EVs? You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We're live at the library. Streaming at youtube.com/GBH News, facebook.com/GBH News. We'll be here next Tuesday. We won't be here next Friday because of Thanksgiving. And the following Monday, we will have the governor with us, not at the library this month, but back in our studio. If you're just joining us, we're talking about the state of EVs, how the current political climate is throttling growth to a degree in the industry, or is it the technology that just isn't affordable or reliable enough for enough of you all? 877-301-8970.
Listen to this. This is from Tim in Beverly. He says, in 5 years, I've only spent $4 putting air in my Tesla tires. That's it. No oil changes, etc.
I've had this car for a year next month. I haven't changed the oil. There isn't oil. There always no oil. Thank you. Jamie just made me clear. The reason I haven't changed is because there isn't any. Well, that's true. I was honest what I said. I mean, obviously, I haven't changed it. I have not filled the tires. What else do you do? What else do you do in an electric car? Anything? Okay, whatever it is, I haven't done it. Except take it to the shop when it was screwed up.
Okay, but Benjamin is complaining that they're very heavy, these electric cars. They emit more particles from brake pads and tire wear. Is that right, Jim? And cause more wear and tear on the roads. I have read about that wear and tear on the roads. And a lot of people are worried about the electricity. But again, they're worried about the electricity. But again, at least according to Bill McKibben, who I would say is the premier expert on this stuff in the country, we have to get better solutions for electricity, but it's not nearly causing us the problems that the fossil fuels are.
Take some calls.
Grant from Salisbury. Thank you for calling.
Welcome, Grant.
Hi, both of you. I own a Chevy Bolt, and I love my EV.
Great.
I was going to talk about from the history side of things, but real quick, the wear and tear. My mechanic told me that my brakes last 80,000 miles because the car doesn't really use brakes to slow down; it uses the motor. But
that's a great point.
What's the word for that? What does that do? My car does it. Regenerative, right. Yeah, that's what it is. That's incredible. But go ahead.
It literally uses the electric motor to slow down.
Yeah,
not the brakes are there more for an emergency, right?
Yeah.
Kind of?
Yeah.
Anyway, all my friends tell me, I'd get one, but. And they said, it costs a lot of money to resources to get the metals out of the ground for batteries.
Uh-huh.
And I come back and I said, well, doesn't it hurt the ground? Isn't that what getting oil out of the ground has caused the problems?
It's an excellent point. That's a great point, Grant. I mean, by the way, we keep quoting Bill McKibben because he's the person we respect most on this. Bill is not denying that there's some downsides, but as you just did, Grant, comparing the downsides with mining and whatever else disposal around electric components as compared to ones from fossil fuels is not even close. And so comparatively, it's the right choice. Grant, we're glad you're happy with your car, and we're glad you called. Thanks so much. What do you like about it?
Here's a good one from Emily in Jamaica Plain. Our 2018 Tesla is mostly great, but it was clearly designed by men. No child care seats that fit properly, and the seat belts sit in the wrong place across your chest, if you know what I mean, ladies.
You were in my car. Was the seat belt in the wrong place?
I don't remember, but Emily says, and she owns one, she drives it all the time. If your children complain, you get daughters. What do they think?
No, they have not. They complain about other things, but they haven't complained about that I know of. By the way, Jamie just sent us a note. Didn't Benjamin Franklin do something with batteries from the Ken Burns documentary? I don't remember that, but the great thing in the Ken Burns documentary for men, speaking of men, what did Benjamin Franklin discover that we didn't know till we spoke to Ken? The flexible catheter.
Yeah, that's right.
Men out there, how happy are you about that?
Huge.
Exactly. Say something. Thank you very much. That is a huge, it's still metal in his day, but it was flexible at least. That's a good thing. Let's try to squeeze in James from York, Maine. James, welcome to the show. Hi.
How you doing? Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
excellent,
we can.
Yeah.
Thank you for calling.
My first hybrid was a Camry 2008. I gave it to my daughter at 199,000 miles. She drove it to 260,000 miles. Never a problem with the battery. My second hybrid was a 2013 Prius V, like the wagon.
Yep.
And I loved that car until it blew a piston and it died. So 6 months ago, I bought a Tesla 3. And I love it. I have the Irish version, which only goes to 270 miles per charge, full charge. But here's my story. I drove to Manchester, New Hampshire 3 months ago, and I get off on South Willow Street, and a guy on a motorcycle with no helmet pulls up next to me at a light And the light turns green, and I'm about to turn left to go to the supercharger on South Willow. And as he leaves, he turns around and gives me the finger. So I followed him. I pulled over where he was. I got out of the car and I said, "Hey, can I ask you why'd you give me the finger?" And he said, "I hate GD Democrats." I said, "Hey, buddy, how do you know what my political party is? I've never voted Democrat in my entire life." That was kind of a lie. But he said, he said, "Well," I said, "Listen, I got to ask you a question. Have you ever driven one of these?" And he said, "No." I said, "Well, listen, in the time it took you to give me the finger, I could have run you over. You never would have heard me coming. These things go like a bat out of hell." So anyway, that's my story.
Let me tell you,
nice weekend and
you made my day, James. That was great.
He talked about exactly what Renee Loth was talking in her column, and what the guy that runs Ford Motor Company was talking about. That EVs have become a symbol of liberal politics. You figure Barack Obama is probably driving around in an EV, and everybody who owns an electric, whether it's a Chevy Volt or a Tesla, is probably, very, very woke. And we don't like them because we don't like vaccines either. And apparently we don't like vaccines even here in Massachusetts because we're not getting the new COVID ones with any great rate. But that's what it is. It's become part of the culture wars.
By the way, one good thing in terms of the EV for people, most working class people who are now moving to the Republican side, are pro-union. I was just reading last night, I don't know if you know, the UAW contract passed by a very narrow margin, 55 to 45. It was voted down in a ton of GM plants, but overall it was ratified. Part of what they won was the ability, UAW, the ability to organize battery making plants, make it much easier than it currently exists under the current law. So that's a pretty big deal. So for those who are resistant, because a lot of these places are non-union, or in the case of Musk, anti-union, give this UAW under this terrific president, Sean Fain, a little bit of time.
And aren't they going for the non-union, to unionize the non-union places
what they intend,
too?
but,
That's what they're
having
trying to
said
do.
that, a lot of people, for example, remember Amazon? They did great in Long Island. They never got a contract. They failed in one of the southern. It's tough. It's really tough organizing in these states.
And they also accommodated for future construction of the EV cars because they're worried about that too, right? Yeah, that was the guy. He was one of those guys. Was
you're talking about?
It was O'Brien that was in the from the Teamsters.
Sean O'Brien,
yeah. He wasn't involved in the UAW.
No, that's Sean Fain.
But he's a great organizer as well. He's a local guy. We're going to talk about him a little bit later in the show.
And hopefully by then he's beaten up Billy Wayne Bob, whatever his name is, from Oklahoma, the senator there.
Okay, thank you very much for your calls and your texts. After a quick break, I know we have a lot of people who love them.
By the way, excuse me. I was being flip. Franklin is credited, as in Benjamin, he is credited as being the first to use the term, meaning battery, is that what it is? Battery in relation to electricity. So there you go.
There you go.
A genius.
Okay, after a quick break, a great treat. It is time for Live Music Friday at the Boston Public Library. The folks from Cherry Street Music join us to talk about their upcoming celebration of the first black performer with the Boston Symphony Orchestra, Roland Hayes, 100 years ago. We're going to hear about that and hear some great music. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie, and we're live at the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News, facebook.com/GBH News. We're back here Tuesday, obviously not Friday for after Thanksgiving, and you're really in for a huge treat because we heard rehearsal before. This week, it was exactly 100 years since composer and tenor Roland Hayes made history, becoming the first black performer with the Boston Symphony Orchestra. Wait till you hear the story of Roland Hayes. After that initial performance, Hayes went on to achieve milestone after milestone, including most recently getting a school in Brookline, Marjorie, named after him quite recently. Yeah. Hayes' life has inspired a concert this weekend from the folks at Newton's Cherry Street Music, here for another Live Music Friday. The concert is this Sunday. It's the 19th, 3 p.m., at the Newton Cultural Alliance's Allen Center. For information and to get tickets, we'll tell you this again, newtonculture.org, and then click on the Allen Center. Joining us here at the interview desk is Allison Yoshi Eldridge. She's the founder and artistic director of Cherry Street Music. It's great to meet you, Allison. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Jim.
And Philip Lima,
so much, Marjorie.
a baritone opera singer. You can tell when he'll say hello in a minute. And the curator for this concert. Phil, it's great to have you here, too. Thank you so much. In a moment, we're going to hear from some Live Music Friday alums. They've been here before. The brilliant tenor, Fred Van Ness, and keyboardist Brendan Shapiro. But for now, Allison and Phil, we're so glad you're here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming in, and this is indeed going to be a treat. But Allison, tell us a little bit more about Cherry Street Music. What is it? What does it mean?
So Cherry Street Music, it's the concert series that really is a mixed genre kind of concert series where we'll play classical and we'll have the Beatles on the same concert. We will have, Margaret Bond's art songs, who was a black African-American composer and female, and we'll put her in a concert with Brahms or maybe even something like Elton John on the same concert. So it's a concert series that's for everybody, and the idea is actually because Nathaniel Allen, who had this historic homestead and school, was a multiracial school, and this is where Cherry Street Music is housed and where our home is, this beautiful carriage house, and that actually is a part of the story. And so his vision was oneness and bringing everyone together to learn about cultures and to get rid of prejudice. And so we do that even within the confines of music, really trying to bring everyone into each other's culture through music and make this beautiful community and really fun concerts that are for everyone.
By the way, the reason I'm half laughing while you're speaking was not what you said. I remember when I was reading about you last night, Allison, you were described in the Chicago newspaper as a cellist afraid of nothing.
Well,
Jesus, whatever that means.
Whatever that means.
Exactly. I want to hear what it means in a minute. Tell us about Roland Hayes. I fear that too many people know far too little about this incredible entrepreneur, groundbreaker. I mean, tell us about Roland Hayes.
When I think of Roland Hayes, my elevator speech is tenor, Titan, and Trailblazer.
Ooh.
Here's the son of a formerly enslaved woman who grew up with limited formal musical education, whose talent blossomed, who, while he's on tour with the famous Fisk Jubilee Singers here in Boston, decides Boston's a place I'm going to be. He jumped ship and stayed here in Boston to study, developed his talent, brought his mother here to live with him, had his family raising here in the area, and conquered the world.
Can you describe one of the incredible things that I learned about him last night? I'd known of him, but not nearly enough. Talk about, I guess you could, this self-funded concert that he did. I mean, this is unbelievable.
Here's the incredible thing. So in 1916, so here in Boston in 1916, think about Boston 1916, he presents himself at Jordan Hall in a concert, and it was not a financial success. What's the term? He lost his shirt. Well, he decided, okay, I'm going to come back, and, instead of my next recital being in Jordan Hall, I'm going to go across the street to Symphony Hall. So he goes and rents a hall almost twice the size, fills the place, hundreds are turned away from the performance. He presents himself in a blockbuster, hugely successful, financially and artistically successful program. And that was what put so much wind in his sails, so that literally to the day, by the way, to the day, 6 years later, he is back as soloist with the Boston Symphony.
Okay, you have to explain that. Not a success at Jordan Hall, which is smaller. Huge success. So how do you manage this? What was the difference?
Pounding the pavements. He was,
What do you mean by that?
out there calling people on the phone and telling them about this concert as if he was the manager, not necessarily saying it was him. There's this incredible concert coming up, and you got to get tickets, and it's going to be sold out, and you better get them before they run out. And there were 600 or 700 people who didn't get into the concert who wanted to. And that was the beginning. And after that, then he went to England, and he was, again, renting out the hall, doing the same thing, an entrepreneurial. And then ultimately, the King and Queen of England heard about it and invited him to come and sing for them. And that, then he came back as a real success.
What a brilliant idea.
Phil, one of the things that when Margie and I were talking about Roland Hayes this morning, and I know you could say this about a lot of brilliant people in our history, why is he not more omnipresent in the minds of every young person, every young performer, particularly young performers of color, but not just young performers of color? We don't know enough about Roland Hayes.
I think you're right. I don't know why. We all have our season. It comes and goes. But if we were to have this conversation, say a follow-up conversation a year from now, I promise that there will be a lot more recognition of Mr. Hayes, particularly where I have the privilege of working at Berklee College of Music, because we have this incredible direct connection with Mr. Hayes through our colleague, Afrika Lamb, who is Mr. Hayes' daughter and who is at 90 years old, still is working 3 days a week.
Can we introduce her,
Berklee.
please? Afrika Lamb, please raise your hand, the daughter of Roland Hayes. We are so honored to have you here, Ms. Lamb. Thank you. This is really an incredible treat. Thank you for being, that is huge.
A real gem of the dance division of the Boston Conservatory at Berklee.
So, do you think Fred Van Ness can handle if we play a little Roland Hayes doing Roland Hayes before Fred does Roland Hayes? Does Fred have it in him? He can handle it?
All I can say is Fred is fresh from the Met.
Okay. So he can probably, can you deal with this, Fred, if we hear the real guy before we hear you? Okay, fine. Here is Roland Hayes himself singing Schubert's, I'm going to butcher this, so don't yell at me. Du bist die Ruhe? No, really?
Du bist die Ruhe.
Well, that's close. That wasn't exactly right. Same song that helped him win over Berlin audiences. By the way, in 1924, when he takes the stage, he is booed loudly at the beginning of the performance.
Yes, for 10
and his
minutes.
performance is so brilliant that it turns into, I mean, what a story. Here, let's hear him. And then
Absolutely.
here is Roland Hayes
Gonna
in
sing
Berlin
By and By.
100 years ago. That is beyond
Exquisite.
belief. But you were going to say something, Phil.
No, thanks. The story's incredible. So think about 10 minutes on stage and folks are booing you.
Yes.
That's an eternity, right? And in the midst of that, he reports that one of the ways he got through it was he sort of had a mantra to himself, and basically he prayed to God, let them see you, not me.
Oh my God.
So he got through it. He, on the fly, decides with the pianist, we're going to change the program, and we're going to start with Du bist die Ruhe, and Du bist die Ruhe, you are my peace, you are my consolation. So here he is singing that text to the folks who just booed him for 10
And explain what
minutes.
the booing was about.
I'm sorry?
Explain what the booing was
and
about.
the booing was about a black man standing on the stage in Germany singing the great German language art. That's what it was about.
So
But
we're going to
he
hear
won
Fred.
them over.
What
He
is?
won them over.
Wow, that's pretty.
He
What
did.
is Fred Van Ness first going to treat us to there?
So he's
Allison?
going to treat us to By and By, a spiritual that Roland Hayes sang. And then we're going to hear something more, but we get to hear Brendan Shapiro and Fred Van Ness Jr.
Fred and Brendan, we're so glad you're here. Take it away, Fred.
Oh, by and by, by and by, I'm gonna lay down this heavy load. Oh, by and by, by and by, I'm gonna lay down this heavy load. I know my robe's gonna fit me well. I'm gonna lay down this heavy load. I tried it on at the gates of hell. I'm gonna lay down this heavy load. Oh, by and by, by and by, I'm gonna lay down this heavy load. Oh, some of these mornings bright and fair, I'm gonna lay down this heavy load. Gonna take my wings and cleave the air. I'm gonna lay down this heavy load. Oh, by and by, I'm gonna lay down this heavy load.
Congratulations. Fred, go to the other mic for a second, will you? What's it feel like singing the music of Roland Hayes? What's it feel like to you?
It is a great privilege. As a young black tenor, I knew about Roland Hayes because I really didn't really know many black singers when I was in my undergrad. I started singing in my undergrad, so I was very new to music. But by the time I got to my master's, I really wanted to really start studying black singers, black composers, and Roland Hayes was one of the names that I found first. And he actually has quite a few compositions of his own that I've sung in church quite a bit. So it's a great honor and a privilege to sing songs that he has sung in Boston at the BSO and to stand on his shoulders.
Fred, I'm wondering, I know you have just come from the Metropolitan Opera in New York, right? And a lot of us who have only seen the Metropolitan Opera on television, you see all the people coming in their tuxedos and all their gowns. They probably don't do that quite so much anymore, do they, or do they?
It depends. Opening night is pretty fancy.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So you see the tuxes and the jewels.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
really
I
cool.
wore a little bit, I dressed up a little bit for the opening night of Malcolm X.
Don't go away. Stay at the mic because we talked to you before. Fred's going to perform again with Brendan in a couple of seconds. Tell us a bit more about the whole concert.
Well,
Alice, on
so
Sunday.
celebrating this pioneer, I mean, when we were talking about like why the generations have not necessarily all remembered Roland Hayes, that's why we're bringing him as, of course, the centennial tribute, but so that for the next generation that they can become inspired by this phenomenal, historic, courageous, speaking of afraid of nothing person. And so, you know, at Cherry Street Music and at the Allen Center, we are all about that social change and oneness and overcoming any kind of prejudice, but through music and through community. And so that's very much why we're doing this concert. And it's one of other concerts that we do of this kind.
So Phil, we mentioned before that the Heath School in Brookline is going to be renamed for Roland Hayes. How did that come about? What happened?
Well, there was, I'm not an expert on it, but what I do know is that there actually was, there was a competition, if you will, about whom to name the school after. And some very, influential folks in our local history, but again, tenor, titan, trailblazer.
Yeah, and
Mr. Hayes came
he
on
also
top.
lived in Brookline for years.
He
right?
lived in Brookline for decades and decades, and there's a wonderful granite and brass memorial that was dedicated in front of the house now. Now we can all go and see it.
So people will know about him at the Heath School in great detail, I would think. Yeah.
Absolutely.
The first voice you heard there was the baritone Afraid of Nothing, Phil Lima, and the cellist Afraid of Nothing, Allison Edridge here. Why? I read that. That was not made up. Why? What does that mean, the cellist Afraid of Nothing?
I don't know, except that I was following
yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Well, I was following in the footsteps of Jacqueline Dupre, playing the Elgar Cello Concerto with Daniel Barenboim and the Chicago Symphony, and I guess maybe some people thought that took a little chutzpah to do, perhaps.
How'd you do?
It was okay, you know. I mean, it was an honor. Obviously, I think anyway, it was a real privilege. And
Alison, the idea of combining these concerts, though, I think is a genius thing because everybody has preferences in music. Some people opera, they find it intimidating. I don't understand it. You put a little Elton John in there. You put a little Beatles. I mean, you get a whole wider swath of people that would come. I think a lot of Americans, particularly, you know, are not as attuned to the opera as we should be.
Exactly, and there's something for everyone. And again, it's with that vision of we all come together, that oneness, and understand each other's cultures and differences in music. And it's a wonderful bridge for community.
You were going to say something.
Well, I was just going to say, it's at Berkeley, a place like Berkeley, you know, with the merger with the Boston Conservatory, where we actually combat that thing. And, you know, we do hundreds and hundreds of concerts every year with classical students and jazz students and contemporary style students all performing together on the same program on the same stage. So we're trying to correct that.
You know, Phil, you said a few minutes ago when we were talking about the experience when Roland Hayes self-funded this incredible concert at Symphony Hall about, I think you said something, imagine what it was like back then. Imagine what it's like today. What opportunities? We're in Boston in 2023. We've talked about this same subject with many performers, many artists. What is Boston like for people of color in the opera business, for example, in this community in 2023? What kind of opportunity is there?
Actually, I think here in Boston, in the relatively small market we have, we actually have quite a significant presence as performers of color in the opera realm. Fred has sung with Boston Lyric Opera. He's been here. He's on the regular roster of Boston Lyric Opera. That. I, unfortunately, because of my illness, I had to drop out of the Cinderella production that Boston Lyric Opera just did.
They were here to talk about it.
Yeah, it was a fantastic performance. A great production, black director, Prince, black singer. So there's upcoming production, black singers in both of the next upcoming productions at Boston Lyric. Boston's a great town for us singers of color to get our feet wet and develop our craft. And
then there's Cherry Street Music and the Burbs, so there you go.
You know, Fred Van Ness, you are going to perform for us in a second again with Mr. Shapiro. I just wondered, though, I always wonder how people wind up being in the opera. How did this happen for you? Did you have a great voice as a kid and you just expanded from there? Or?
Yeah, so I was born in Houston, but I always spent all my summers in Louisiana. And so we moved to Louisiana when I was in 5th grade permanently. And I did choir in 6th grade, and that was it. The choir teacher left. We never got a choir teacher again. And so I didn't sing again until my 2nd year of my undergrad. I took a beginner voice for piano as an elective because I've just always loved to sing and wanted to learn piano. And my voice teacher pulled me aside one day and was like, hey, you have a kind of a natural European operatic sound. Have you thought about music? And I was like, oh, I can't get a degree. I have to go to Juilliard or like Manhattan School of Music. And he was like, no, you can get a degree right here at McNeese State University in Lake Charles, Louisiana. And you know, when you're 20 years old, you're like, sure, I'll sing opera. So that's how it started.
So when did you know you had it? I mean, you're a pretty humble guy. We know you a little. When did you know I can do this? I can do this.
I think it was my junior year when I got my first lead role in my undergrad. When I was like, oh, this is something that I think is viable and I can actually do.
It's fabulous. So Fred's going to sing again. He's going to tell us what he's going to. Why don't you tell us, Allison? Okay. What is Fred going to sing this round here?
So Fred is going to sing for us Kuda Kuda from Tchaikovsky's Onegin opera, which Roland Hayes sang with the Boston Symphony Orchestra in 1923. Here.
Well, 1923, which happens to be exactly 100. This is just incredible. Fred, Brendan, once again, we're looking forward to it.
Skazhi Eva krasati Slej supra rajnaj urnaj I tumat Omen ja lubil Omen jaj vinaj Pozvaj tirva sveć pečarni Žižni burnaj Ach, Olga, ja tebe ja lubil Tebe Dinaj pozvaj tir Razveć pečalni Žižni burnaj Ach, Olga, ja tebe ja lubil. Srdežni drug, želani drug, pridi, želani drug, pridi, ja tvoj suprug, pridi, ja tvoj suprug, pridi, ja tebe želani drug, pridi, ja tvoj suprug, kuda vi uralilis zlatije dni moje.
We have been listening to the incredible voice of tenor Fred C. Van Ness Jr., accompanied by Brendan Shapiro. They are going to be at the in Newton at the Newton Cultural Alliance Allen Center this Sunday afternoon. The concert is at 3. For more information to get tickets, go to newtonculture.org. We are also honored to be joined by Roland Hayes' daughter, Africa Lamb, who came with us today, and we've been speaking as well with Allison Yoshi Eldridge, founder and artistic director of Cherry Street Music, and Philip Lima, baritone, opera singer, and the curator for this concert. Thank you so much for coming here. For more information about the concert, again, you want to go to newtonculture.org. It's Sunday at 3.
What do we do after that? I mean,
well, we're going to talk to Callie Crossley after that.
That's actually a good transition.
After the noon news, going to tell us about a horrible, well, actually a great story out of Texas. You'll be surprised. Listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH, broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library. Keys Jim Browdy. I am Marjorie Egan. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. We are broadcasting live at the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News. We're going to be back here again on Tuesday, but we're not going to be here the day after Thanksgiving.
That's right. And by the way, if anybody wants to go to get a cup of coffee, because I'm going to read everything Callie's doing, it's going to take a while, and you can come back in maybe 4 or 5 minutes. Here it goes. We're joined now by GBH's Callie Crossley. Callie's the host of Under the Radar with Callie Crossley. You can catch that Sunday nights right here at 89.7 at 6. She's also co-host of GBH's The Culture Show, which happens to air Fridays at 2 o'clock,
That's
which
right.
would be
right after us.
1 hour and 53
right.
minutes from now. First 2 episodes have been spectacular. And coming up in December, daily at 2, meaning the Culture Show is going to be every day at 2. And I'm almost done. You can also hear Callie commentaries on Mondays for GBH's Morning Edition. Hello, Callie Crossley.
Hello, Callie Crossley. Thank you. I'm very
have a
well.
mic?
Oh, we have a mic problem. I
No,
think.
I don't know if we do. Say something, Callie.
Hello.
Oh,
There we
it's
go.
okay.
Great.
It's fixed.
All right.
It's
Great.
fixed.
Okay.
So let's start with something that is really sad for those of us who are fans of newspapers. They're just
Yeah.
going down the
This is-
tubes. 1/3 of them going to be gone by 2024.
This is actually shocking. I was going to say startling, but it really is shocking. So the projection was they would be gone, not that this was so good, by 2025 or 2026. But now the estimate says the decline is happening so fast that it's the end of next year. They're expecting all these newspapers to be dead. Now, why does that matter? Because two things. First of all, you don't want that to happen because the newspapers and the reporting in local communities is really very much tied to our democracy. But what this report showed is that most of the papers that are leaving or disappearing are in very poor communities and in southern communities where that'll be it. So when it goes away, there's like not another alternative. They're not in places where there's 5 other online entities that somebody's taken up as a result of the loss of a space of a newspaper. There other smart kind of national things available to them. Like this is it, and I think we can say that this is leading to a big reason why folks have so much misinformation.
Yeah.
Because they have no opportunity to have to actually get information about what's happening. And if nothing else that we've learned in media over the last few years, we understand how important the news about people's hometowns and local areas are. Hyper-local is still very important. I don't care what anybody says. So we're talking about hyper-local newspapers. These are the people that covered the community, that knew the folks in the community, that knew the issues in the community going away.
By the way, can I add a couple things? This is an Axios story that does these statistics. And again, there were 8,891 papers in 2005, and they expected it to be reduced by 1/3, which is huge, by I think the end of 2025, and it's the end of this year. But listen to these numbers. 6%, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's still 6% of the counties in America have no newspaper coverage at all. Half of the counties in America have only a weekly newspaper, and then the rest have what they have for now. As you say, mostly poor communities, southern communities, communities of color. But the other thing, beyond an educated electorate, one would hope, would be more civil and more sane in their decision making. Secondly, newspapers are what hold governments and institutions to account.
I know.
And when you're not being watched,
Your
you
taxes
do whatever the
go
hell,
up, that's for sure.
And corruption happens in government and corporate America. I mean, this is huge.
But you know
It's
what else?
huge.
You know what else? My sister lives in Cape Cod, and she, the Cape Cod Times used to cover Cape Cod. Now it's been so diminished that they really can't cover much of anything anymore. And you find out about these massive developments that are going to be going up down your street or some catastrophe that you didn't even know about because nobody's covering these things because these big companies come in and they just cut and cut and cut the staff till the paper's like this and they can't afford to go to meetings or to tell you what's going on locally.
At least, though, in that area, you have the Cape Cod Times, you have CAI, our affiliate
Yes, you
there.
do.
And you have 2 papers on Martha's Vineyard. And they're fighting the good fight. Yes, the Martha's Vineyard Times and the Martha's Vineyard Gazette.
Good for that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
How are
so
they managing it?
It's hard. I mean, they're very small newspapers, but again, they couldn't be more hyper-local, and they are, they're the ones that are for one thing, uncovering this information about the Steamship Authority, I could go on and on and on.
Oh, that's right.
But
that's when the steamships were breaking down in the middle.
They're still breaking down.
Oh,
it's not over.
Hasn't upset her though. It's pretty obvious. Can we say one more thing about this? Is that also a lot of the papers that continue to exist are owned by conglomerates, the Gannett's of the world, which publish the same generic crap in every newspaper that has very little relevance to the audience in that particular community. So I know people hear this conversation who aren't in the business and say, well, that's too bad. It's not too bad. It is horrible.
Right.
And, think about we were talking yesterday about the disgrace of the legislature going home and leave for a 7-week vacation while this migrant and homeless shelter bill is just sitting there. I would argue if they do anything between now and next year, it's because a lot of people in the media got a lot of upset about it, and the pressure builds. Without that, they can just hide out. It's not just here; it's everywhere.
Right. And if you take a look at Diana DiZoglio's move to try to get more information about what's going on in the legislature, and then go back and look at her own case and the story about what happened to her. That only happens if you have reporters working on it. Yeah.
So we're talking to Callie Crosby. Callie, every time we discuss an LGBTQ case with any guest that's in the South, it is horrible news.
Horrible.
We have an exception today.
This
horrible news turned into unbelievably uplifting news in a place called Sherman, Texas. Tell us the story.
Well, okay, so the town of Sherman, Texas, and to be specific, the district committee, the school district committee, decided to impose a rule after this has happened. They had cast all of the students in the roles for Oklahoma. Y'all know Oklahoma. Oklahoma, where the wind comes right behind the rain.
Oh, very good. Very
where the
good.
waving weed smells sweet.
Listen to you.
Every night.
Don't stop.
My honey lamb and I watch the lazy turkles in the rye. We know we belong to the land, and the land we belong to is grand. And so we say, yep.
Let's hear for Callie Crosby.
That was great.
I love those moments.
So wait a minute.
I was Oklahoma.
Were you a high school musical star that we don't know about?
No, I just love musicals. I'm a total musical person.
Okay, so Oklahoma, arguably the most non-controversial play, like in history. Go ahead.
So they've cast the students. The students are all excited. Then they reverse, then they pull the plug and say, you can't have it because one of the students, I guess in the lead role, got sick or something, he had to step out. So they recast and put a kid in place who's transgender. And in addition to that, there were straight kids also playing other roles, other gender roles. Which is a lot happening in theater these days. That's not particularly new. Anyway, they got all upset about it and said, no, we're not having this. This is an abomination. We can't do it. Said you can't have the play. So they came to a climactic point where everybody went to the meeting with the school board, protested and said, no, we're not going to go down like this. And a lot of parents of transgender kids and gay kids and other people who don't have any kids, either way or the other, decided to go and say, no, we're not going to do this. We're going to stand up and say, these kids should be allowed to go forth. What's your problem? And as one parent said, she sat outside in the car, taking deep breaths, saying, this is just not going to happen, and I'm going to have to live with it on the side, and was shocked when they got in. And the protest was so intense, the school committee voted to reverse course.
Unanimously, including many people who'd been on the other side.
Right. And so that is an amazing kind of thing. And we should say that Sherman, Texas, so people understand, has been described as a place that is ultra-conservative, not just conservative, where a lot of people have moved from Dallas. In fact, one of the rallying cries against the casting of transgender and gay kids and straight kids and other gender roles were, we're not Dallas, and don't bring that stuff here. So this parent said after the ruling was reversed that she literally sat in the car and wept because she couldn't believe. It was just so uplifting.
While the outcome is totally uplifting, the notion, we've had this discussion in other contexts, the fact that adults are willing to inflict pain on young people, particularly vulnerable young people, trans people, probably the most vulnerable people in our society. Did you read that same story? It took 2 months to build the set. They ripped the set down as soon as they...
They came in and demolished the mock-up of a settler's house. I mean, how nasty and cruel is that?
Well, cruelty is the thing, as we've talked about before.
Yeah.
But cruelty, you know, if you want to be a total and complete a-hole like Trump and attack other adults, you know, do it. If that's what your thing is, do it. The notion that these people are willing to visit misery on young people who are trying to express themselves, it's just unconscionable.
In Oklahoma.
In Oklahoma,
okay, let's go there.
Since you're clearly an expert on Oklahoma, you know, they were talking about in this Texas case it being too risque.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, did I miss something?
That's what I'm thinking. I missed something. Did you miss something?
I thought there was a high school girl or a young woman that had 2 suitors.
Yeah, it was romance, and that was it. You know? And then the guy sitting watching Lazy Hawk circling the sky with his wife. That was it. Did I miss something?
I don't know. I guess if that's too risque, we're all in big trouble.
Yeah, I'm going to go back and look at it again because maybe I missed something.
But meanwhile, in your home state,
oh my God,
there was another anti-gay ordinance. Tell us about this.
Well, it got passed, and as this article says, we didn't catch it, or nobody found it. This is Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I'm very familiar with it. This is my home state, as you've said. By the way, this was the state that did the first ban on drag time, story times, and that got reversed. So just to say that, but just so you understand where people are coming from, they said this was indecent behavior, and really what it was tied to is an ordinance that prohibits homosexuality in public, but they're using that ordinance to ban books, library books, that they say violate the new rules. Now, you won't be surprised that the books that they want to ban all have content in them that are related to LGBTQ. And so there's, you know, they've put this in place, they're doing it, and, you know, folks may be upset, but here we go. And there is an ACLU back challenge. So we'll see how that comes, what happens there. But actually, it's another book banning incident.
Am I not right? Is this not the place where they're issuing new library cards?
Yes.
Where, depending on your age, you can only get age-appropriate books. Now, people may say, well, that's fine. Except, I think I read my favorite book that caused me to go to law school, To Kill a Mockingbird, is an adult book that a teenager can't take out unless they get special permission.
Yeah, they have to get special permission. Here are the books that they are particularly targeted. Let's Talk About It, Queerfully and Wonderfully Made, and This Book is Gay. So, you know.
Those are outright banned as opposed to in the adult section, right?
So I've only been to Tennessee a couple of times, Nashville and Memphis, but so I don't know much about Tennessee. But you're
well, Murfreesboro is a place where this could happen.
Yeah.
Let me put it like that.
I mean, what is the kind of what's the lay of the land? Is it different in different places? I would assume in the bigger cities it's different.
Yeah. Memphis and Nashville is very, very different.
Yeah.
In feel. It doesn't mean that stuff can't happen in both of them that I'd be appalled by, but they're much more, I would use the word sophisticated, and a little bit more worldly than in other parts of the state. However, that's, Dollywood is there. There's Scripps that have, the company that makes a lot of syndicated programming that we all love is located in, East Tennessee. Yeah. So you'd think that, there'd be a little bit more openness.
But no.
But no. Mm-mm.
Okay, well, let's move on to another story, which is an uplifting story. Tell us about Layla Edwards.
Yeah, this is interesting. She's the first black woman to play for a U.S. hockey team. She's 19. Apparently, she's quite good. And she herself said, gee, it's a little late for me to be the first. But okay, I'll take it. She's a Wisconsin sophomore, and she was on a forward line with Olympian Abby Roque and Badgers teammate Britta Curl. And people are raving about her. And this is good. By the way, she has a sister who apparently is quite good, too.
By the way, she's not on a women's hockey team. She's on the national women's hockey team, which means, and they say, because of playing on the line with the Olympians, the likelihood is Edwards is on her way to be an Olympic skater, a hockey player for the United States.
So that's pretty exciting.
Which is pretty exciting, yeah.
Now, on the men's side, there's one black man, right? And I don't know his name. Yeah,
I'm embarrassed to say I know very little about hockey.
Yeah, that's my extent. I mean, he's had.
I know they get
endure.
in fights a lot.
Well, he's had to endure a few things, but I believe there's one. And he's been on it for a while.
They're always banging up against the wall. Everybody's got their pucks out. They're hitting each other over the head.
Yeah.
Do you know who I had on Greater Boston when I was still doing Greater Boston yesterday? Willie O'Ree, who was the first black professional hockey player,
Yeah.
play for the Bruins.
Right.
And has been like an ambassador for the Bruins. And what a wonderful soul and a full of life human being he
Right.
is. Also not a kid, I should
Yeah.
say. But good for Layla Edwards. So can we get to something that we
Really
all care
matters?
about a lot? No, these things matter. But
They do matter.
Okay.
Daggone it.
I have to say, I love these stories,
Me
and
too.
by more than I should. A bunch of kids in some school want to learn about the
Norwood, I think.
legislature,
Yeah.
and they take up a project to do a bill. And what is the goal of the bill? Where'd you say, Norwood?
Norwood.
That these kids are bringing to Beacon Hill. What is their hope?
They would like to name an official ice cream for the state. Apparently, other states have official ice creams. I didn't know that, and we don't have one.
We don't.
So they went through the whole process. They had a recommendation, cookies and cream, because of Harold's. As you know, the history of Harold's.
Steve Harold, yeah.
Steve Harold.
That was invented at Harold's? Cookies and cream?
Yes, because
I didn't know
he
that.
invented mix-ins.
He did?
Yes, I did a whole thing on this on Under
Is
the
that
Radar.
true?
Yes.
Wait
yes.
a second. There were no mix-ins
That is
in ice
correct.
cream before
I
Harold's?
did a whole segment about the ice cream history made
Excuse
in
me,
Massachusetts, and that's one piece of it.
What other pieces of it?
I can't remember.
Okay,
but that
fine.
was important.
Well, that's
Listen,
pretty
you're testing
huge.
me. Yeah,
That is huge.
I know. Yeah.
Okay,
Well, the
so
mix-ins are the what are the pieces, the sweet pieces? I know it's got the chocolate
It
in
can
there.
be anything. It's the idea of the mix-ins
Okay.
that was not common until Steve Harold, brought that.
You know, there's a place down the Cape, my favorite place, Four Seas, and in
Yeah,
there,
they are
in there
good.
they have the butterscotch pieces of butterscotch candy in their Buttercrunch
They
ice
have
cream.
pretty much every one of their ice creams. Anyway, so then they took a poll to ask people what they thought, and the cookies and cream did not come in as
yeah,
high
I
as
didn't
it.
get that part. It wasn't number one.
No, but just because they recommended it doesn't mean it has to be.
Yeah.
The one that came out first that actually makes sense to me, even though that's not my favorite, is coffee. Come on, this is the coffee place.
Yeah.
I mean, like a Dunkin' experience.
Yes,
kind
the
of
type,
thing.
well, because, and you could then have mix-ins in coffee if you wanted to be true to the heritage of Harold. But I think that coffee is a much better representation of Massachusetts, at least on this end of Massachusetts. I don't know what happens on the other end. What do we think?
How the hell do I
find
know?
out.
What are you
tell you
talking
what,
about
We
for?
need to find out.
In my neck of the woods down southeastern Massachusetts, Fall River, New Bedford, coffee was always huge when I was a kid. Coffee
Yeah.
fraps, coffee
Yeah, yeah,
milkshakes,
yeah.
coffee this, coffee syrup.
So, but wait a
coffee
second.
that.
To be clear, these kids are not lobbying to have a state ice cream. They're lobbying to have cookies and cream to be the state ice cream. Is that
Well,
not
two.
correct?
They would like to have a
Okay.
official, and their recommendation is cookies and cream because of the Harold heritage.
Okay, and
So what
are
do you think is better? Christina is supposed to be the best place
in
to
my
Cambridge,
in
isn't it?
Naaman Square? I think it's
That's
the best.
very good.
Yeah.
It's very good.
But how does Harold stack up, do you think? That's pretty great, too, don't you think?
Harold, very good. And there's a lot of other places. There's another place, Toscanini's. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, Toscanini's, that's huge.
Oh, I mean, really. You
So wait a
cannot
second,
go
what's
out.
Where does Four Seas? You've been to the Four Seas.
Yes.
What do you think?
Well, I like Four Seas, but remember there are more than a dozen homemade ice cream places on the Vineyard, and that is where I live.
Dozen?
Yes, that is correct. So being the expert on that, I would say the one in Edgartown at the Wharf, which is called the Candy Bazaar.
Oh,
and
I've heard of
also
that. I've heard of
Ben
that.
and Bill's in Oak Bluffs.
Yeah.
And that's it, people. Those are the top.
Okay, so before
Because
you...
they make it there every day.
Well, they make it there every day.
Well,
on the
everybody,
rest
but
of them,
every-
too.
yeah, they do the fresh stuff.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is just my personal
Yeah.
preference.
You know, by the way, I should
Yeah,
tell, there was
yeah.
some radio show, I can't remember what, that talked about mix-ins. I heard
Yeah.
a while ago. Have you ever heard, do you know what radio show that was?
Must have been Boston Public Radio.
No, it was actually Under the Radar. Okay, fine. Now, before we move on to what you're doing in the next few, well, this afternoon, next few days, is that sort of thing. What's your favorite ice cream?
Well, I tend to like a chocolate, but I can go back and forth. I like a peppermint. And also, I've tasted a lot of mint variations around here in homage to the Celtics. But a lot of people don't like mint in their ice cream, so I don't think that's a good choice.
So if
for
you had
the
to pick
state.
one, you can't dance on
Well,
this.
I'd probably do a chocolate.
How about you, Mark
Yeah.
Regan?
Yeah.
Well, this is going to sound weird, but I like peach ice cream.
No,
What's
what's
weird
wrong with
about
that?
that? That's great.
I don't know. I think it's kind of off the beaten track a little bit, but I really like
no,
it.
it's
good for you.
That salted caramel's
What's
not
your
bad.
favorite? The salty caramel's
No,
not
it's not.
bad.
What's the cereal thing? My favorite cereal is
Oh, grape nut.
Grape nut ice cream,
Yeah,
which
grape
they have
nut
at
ice cream.
Christina's.
Interesting.
The texture, it's just...
I don't think that works at
It's
all.
That
unbelievable.
doesn't do it for me, but
No,
okay.
I don't.
Okay,
not
well,
me either.
fine.
You know why?
Okay, well,
Because
fine.
grape
Don't
nuts are
gang up
supposed to
on
get
me, okay?
mushy. If you eat grape nuts, you're supposed to pour the milk in and wait
Yeah.
till they get mushy.
And they
in
stay
the
hard,
ice cream,
yeah.
they stay hard. hard.
Yeah.
No, it's
that's
not
the
supposed
problem.
to get mushy.
Yes, it is.
I'm
Supposed to get
sorry.
mushy. It's supposed to get mushy.
Okay,
I
fine.
don't know.
Now, where do we start here? Let's start with Under the Radar.
Yes.
What are you doing on Under the Radar?
We are having our regional roundtable, and we're speaking about the importance of local newspapers. In New Hampshire, they uncovered a representative who has been in place for more than a year, living outside of the district. That is not constitutionally legal, and he's been voting in a very close, in terms of partisanship, state legislature. So his vote necessarily could have made the difference in a lot of places, but he's been voting illegally. He says he told folks, and they said, don't tell anybody, because just keep doing what you're doing.
That's a pretty good story.
That's a big one. And there's some more great ones from our regional roundtable, including, again, the Steamship Authority covering up a big boating accident there.
It's all about Cali, obviously. So, okay.
No. I just want to say also we're continuing our series, The Genius Next Door, with Imani Perry, who also won local awardee of the MacArthur
What
Award.
are you about to read?
Yes.
I was going to say that one of our staff members apparently feels that the Earl Grey ice cream at Toscanini's helped them ascend
Who said
to the
that?
next plane
Is that you?
of consciousness.
Who wrote that?
I don't know. They
Put your
didn't
name
sign
there.
it.
What did you just say about the MacArthur? Zoe.
Oh, Zoe.
Thank you, Zoe. What did you
Thank
say
you,
about
Zoe.
So
MacArthur?
we're continuing our series, The Genius Next Door.
Oh, fabulous. I
yes,
love that.
with Imani Perry, who is one of the 4 local awardees of the MacArthur Foundation.
Yeah, he's done a
grant.
couple of decent things around. He's
she?
done,
Yeah,
she. Oh,
yes.
I thought you were talking about Imani Perry.
No.
We've had Imani Perry actually on the show.
This is Imani Perry.
We've had Imani Perry on the show.
Yes.
Now, Jared, you have to close your ears for this, because
Yes.
we're going to ask you, what are you doing on the Culture Show? And then we're going to ask Jared and see if he gives the same answer.
A
What
lot
are you
of
doing on the
different
Culture
things.
Show?
A lot of different
Go
things.
ahead, take it away.
Yeah, that's it. That's what we're doing. A lot.
Oh,
of
that's
different-
it?
Yeah.
Meaning she has no idea, even though it's an hour and a half.
I know
from
what's on there. I'm
okay,
not
she's
saying.
not telling.
And I tell you what, I love this segment last week on Barbara Streisand's 900-page book.
know.
I know you're a big book
Absolutely.
person. It's a page turner.
Yes, it
It's-
is.
Yeah, so we should all read it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Come on, this is Barbara.
It is Barbara, and I find her life
Memories.
fascinating.
Oh,
That's
she's just she stood up for herself. She made a place for herself. She is an incredible singer, and she's an icon.
And she took so much flack for she was too big for her britches, taking over the shows, all that kind of stuff. I guess she showed everybody.
Or politics. She took a lot of crap for her politics. She's never hidden that. I know
still
that.
is taking crap for that.
Callie, we'll be listening to everything. It's
Okay.
great to see you. Thanks so much for being here.
All right,
Appreciate
talk
it.
to you
Okay,
later.
and speaking of Callie Crossley, host of Under the Radar with Callie Crossley, Sunday nights right here at 89.7 at 6, co-host of the GBH Culture Show, which airs Friday at 2 right after us. And you can also hear Callie commentaries on Mondays from GBH's Morning Edition. Up next, after a quick break, the other Culture Show star, GBH Executive Arts Editor Jared Bowen. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7, GBH broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marge Regan. We're live at the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News, facebook.com/GBH News. We're back here Tuesday, not the Friday after Thanksgiving, obviously. And the following Monday, back in Brighton, the governor will join us for Ask the Governor. We're joined now by Jared Bowen, GBH News' executive arts editor, host of The Culture Show, broadcasting Fridays 2 to 3. That would be right after Boston Public Radio, and starting on December 4th, but whatever the first Monday in December is that the 4th?
It is the 4th.
Thank you very much. Daily at 2 o'clock. And let's hope he knows more about what's on the show at 2 o'clock than Callie did. Hey, Jared.
Hello.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
So Jared Bowen.
Wait, before we start, I just really, how happy are you? We should ask Callie this question too. How happy are you with the first 2 episodes? We both think it's been great. How do you feel, Callie? Thumbs up? You good? She's nodding in agreement. How do you feel about the first
I'm really
couple
happy. I'm really, really happy. I think we have just great chemistry.
I think you do too.
And people, because I'm at arts events all the time, people have been coming up to me and telling me how much they enjoy the show, which is great because this is what we want to do, spread the love of arts and culture far and wide.
You know, I was a little worried in a moment of seriousness. When we started on the radio 24 years ago, is it fair to say we were horrible?
Horrible.
Horrible. And the problem was, even though we were friendly, we didn't know each other that well. And it's really hard to get, and the chemistry thing, I think, is fabulous with the three of you guys who haven't done a show together. I mean, you work together.
We haven't
done a show together. It's really been great, and we're really happy for you and us. So, third episode this afternoon at 2 o'clock.
Yes.
So, Jared Bowen, let's start about the tragic plight of really good-looking comedians.
It's a great story, actually.
You know, it's an American tragedy, let's face it.
This is really interesting. So the New York Times just write about, I love their headline, chiseled cheekbones and comic chops, why we don't like our stand-ups hunky. But I remember years ago, when I lived in New York at that time, going to one of these tiny little clubs where you had to buy 3 drinks. It was a 3-drink minimum or something just to get into the club. And this really, really good-looking guy got up and did stand-up. And I thought, this doesn't work because you're good-looking. It's hard to try to be funny and hard to have people have sympathy or go down your road of travails if you're really, really good-looking. And then, lo and behold, you have this article. I mean, there are some exceptions to this because,
like who?
Well, you make distinctions. Paul Rudd is a really good comedic actor. He's a really good-looking guy, but I'm not sure that he ever did stand-up. But they talk about this guy, Matt Rife, who...
I never heard of him, I'm embarrassed
Neither have I.
Well, because we're not on TikTok as much as other people are, and that's where he kind of rose to fame during the pandemic.
Because he's so good-looking.
Well, and he took his shirt off a lot. That helps.
He did, really?
If you're that good-looking. And
can we play a clip of him and then you can continue? Here he is on TikTok. He's asking an audience member about why she broke up with her boyfriend, who she said didn't do anything with his life. Here's Rife.
Did he not have a job the entire time you guys were together? He did. He worked in the ER also. You broke up with a hero?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, it's good he's good looking. You know what I mean? That was, okay.
Well, he put the whole package together on Instagram and TikTok and took his shirt off a lot, and people think he's funny, and he does address his handsomeness with humor, and people seem to really enjoy it. But if you think about it, he really is the exception.
Well, you know, I'm thinking about the humor I like the most. Other than someone like Bill Burr, who totally eviscerated me when he was on our show, who's like full of himself. I mean this sort of I love him, by the way, despite the fact he hated me, which he's not alone in that regard.
Not alone, that's right.
But he's full of himself and no self-deprecation. The comedians I think I like most, if I had to rate the top 10, are people who are self-deprecating. And self-deprecation, you can't do it if you're perfectly beautiful,
no, you can't.
Perfectly sculpted, it doesn't work kind of thing. So you have to be imperfect,
I don't know.
you think?
I just watched the latest Chris Rock Netflix special, and I think he's a good-looking
He is a
guy.
good-looking guy.
He is,
and
yeah.
I was on the floor. I mean, I thought he was absolutely a riot.
Well, you know who's really good looking, who was on our show 3 days ago, who was a riot for 20 minutes? Chelsea Handler.
That's right,
She
Chelsea
was
Handler.
really funny on the
She's
phone.
a woman. Maybe it's different for a woman.
Well, I was going to say, because one of the best people at self-deprecating is Wanda Sykes.
Oh, she
Because
is the best.
She talks about her stomach,
God, I love
which she
her.
has named Esther Roll, which is hilarious. And she can go on for minutes and minutes and minutes about Esther Roll.
Yeah.
Let me just say one thing about Wanda Sykes. I've said this before, but if you want to Google one of the 10 funniest scenes in history, Wanda Sykes is waiting for her car in a parking lot in Beverly Hills or something, and Larry David walks over. She's a black woman, and of course, what does he do? He gives her his keys and says, "I have the blue Mercedes," or whatever. And what she does to him in the next, 30 seconds is as good as comedy has ever got. She is totally brilliant. In any case, so there are some good looking. No one knows. Anybody know who Matt Rife is before we said it? You
One
telling the
person,
truth
yeah.
or not? You are?
Did you know before a couple minutes ago?
You do?
She
So
did.
like 4 people here. From a couple of days ago.
A couple days ago,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, obviously he's huge at the Boston Public Library. So what's next, Marjorie?
Okay, what's next? We're going to talk about everybody wanting a documentary made about them. What's that about?
Well, we're seeing this more and more. Either it's a documentary film or a documentary series. Fisher Stevens has just done a piece on David Beckham, taking you into his life and really getting a sense of who he is.
Is he complaining about how good-looking he is in that documentary?
No, but he was complaining about something in the documentary because he's funding it, which is one of the major parts of this thing, right?
So a lot of what we're seeing is produced by the stars themselves. Like you think of the Katy Perry film, and there's a Beyonce film that's about to come out. I liken this to memoirs. You either decide you're going to read a memoir or not, because you know if you're reading the memoir, and I know you were just talking about Barbra Streisand, she was pretty candid, because I think age is a factor here. We can talk about that too. But you know that you're getting a very specific point of view from that person. So the way that they're writing on the page is going to be largely the same as when they're depicted in the documentary, if they're the producer of the documentary, because they ultimately want to have final say over their edits. There's one on Sylvester Stallone that has just come out as well. Again, he's behind the scenes producing this, so it's not like you have an objective journalist trying to come in.
Can I tell you, I disagree with you, that comparison. When I read a memoir, which I don't often enough, I am conscious. This is the person describing their life in their own words, even if they had a ghostwriter or whatever. When you see a documentary, I think unless you think hard, when you see the name came up, directed by John Doe and something, and even if it says executive produced way down by the person, him or herself, I think at least my mindset is it's going to be a little bit more objective. And from this story, almost none of them are. And the person the story celebrates is Arnold Schwarzenegger, who paid for a documentary about his own life, but basically said, whatever you film, whatever you say, not my business, you tell. And obviously, he's had a lot of things he doesn't want to talk about, including that kid out of wedlock with the housekeeper and all. So good for him, you know?
Well, and I guess we have different frames of mind, because whenever I see a piece like that, I'm consciously thinking, and maybe because I've worked in television, so I know how pieces are edited, and I know what you can leave on the cutting room floor, and I know how pieces can be shaped. So I'm constantly mindful as I'm watching one of these pieces of everything that I'm likely not seeing, just in the way that and it doesn't mean I avoid it. It just means I watch it in a particular way, just the way I'm reading a memoir.
Can I comment on the Beckham thing, though, by the way?
Yeah, I want to comment on the Beckham thing, too. What I thought was weird is he didn't like the filmmaker filming him cleaning up his kitchen.
Exactly what I was going to say, which is great.
So
shows he's normal.
Exactly. So I thought that was so weird. What does that say about David Beckham? He wants to think he doesn't do chores or something?
Doesn't go to the bathroom, doesn't clean dishes. Really?
Because he's a perfect specimen, right. And it says a lot, because this is also covered in the New York Times, and this is what that reporter talks about, is there is some value to it in that you're seeing the individual as they want to be presented to the world. So it does say a lot for David Beckham that he doesn't want the world to see him washing dishes. Why is that? Because also, remember, people of that ilk, and when they get to that level of fame, they are in a different planet. They're in a different world. They don't live normally. They really don't. I've said this before. I have a lot of friends in Hollywood, and it's a weird world.
But I guess to a regular person, I find that endearing.
I am totally with you. Totally humanizes.
And he's helping. He's helping out his wife, and he's cleaning up the kitchen. Isn't that
Which
great?
one of the Spice Girls is she? Not that I would know. Do you have any idea?
Well, it's Victoria Beckham's Posh Spice.
Oh, Posh. Thank you, Zoe. Zoe didn't take her any time.
I met her once.
Posh.
You did not.
Yeah.
And how was that?
Really lovely, actually.
She was?
Yeah.
What was that about?
It was at a party.
Oh, excuse me.
And they're still.
I bumped into Posh Spice. Okay.
They're still married, are they not?
They are still married
for a long time.
Very long time.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say about age too is that I think this is significant with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Is that I think you get to a certain age where you don't care anymore.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Because you know that I just talked to Jane Fonda too for the Boston Speaker series, and I did read her memoir, and she's pretty forthcoming in that. This is something she wrote about 15 years ago, but she was willing to talk about anything, including Vietnam, and she has a lot to say about it, what she still believes she should have done, and the things that she will go to her grave regretting.
Well, you say she's willing to talk about anything. Tell your story again. We had her on the show, but then you did a program with her.
She must have evolved since I talked to her, which was shortly after the memoir came out. This is over at the Coolidge Corner in Brookline, and we got there, and
you're interviewing her for the
I'm interviewing her, and before the show began, she came in. I was surprised. She's a little bit of a thing. boring, but stunning. But she came in and she said, now, I don't want to talk about Vietnam. I don't want to talk about my faith because she's kind of had a religious conversion. I don't want to talk about, and she went through this list, and I finally said to her, you know, Jane Fonda, I'm going to have anything to talk about with you if you keep telling me what I can't talk to you about. And then she said, well, you could do this and do this. Then, and she was like shy. Then we get out on the stage, and it's like this metamorphosis when she starts talking about elderly sex toys. You know, it was like wow. And I don't know her obviously, but I thought one thing in a room with just one person, and then this gets out in front of the audience, and she just transforms.
Well, actually, I had a similar experience.
Oh, do tell.
And as soon as I got out on stage, I realized, no, I'm going to ask her, because as journalists, we also do not agree to those conditions, as you talked to her about in the green room, and so I kind of politely nodded, but knew that we were going to have the real conversation, and I found the same thing. But she, I think, kind of actually enjoys talking about Vietnam now because she needs to get it out, you know, including the failings.
By the way, before Jared interviewed her, I don't know if you were aware, he bumped into her at a party. You know, I
did.
I don't know if you know, they bumped into each other at a party.
It was weird to have to turn away from Posh to talk to Jane, but I did it.
But what did she say about Vietnam?
She said that in her words, she phrased it, talking specifically about her sitting on that I don't know what you call it, basically the machine gun where she's smiling and she's surrounded by the North Vietnamese. She said, I don't know what I was thinking. I wish I had never done that. I should never have done that, and she regrets it.
Yeah,
wow. Pretty impressive.
She's apologized many, many times for this whole thing too. But I think she's a fascinating character because she had a very difficult childhood where her mother committed suicide and her father never.
Cold fish. What's his face? Henry, right?
Yeah.
Oh, Henry Fonda. Yeah. He never talked about really what happened to her mother, and then he comes home with a new mother, a new wife. Like shortly thereafter, they never discussed any of this. And then she kind of metamorphosized into the men she was with: Roger Vadim, first husband,
Ted Turner,
Barbarella, and then Ted Turner in between, Tom Hayden in between. That was her Vietnam phase. But she told me that Ted Turner was the lover of life. Did she say that to you?
She called him her favorite ex-husband.
Yeah, her favorite ex-husband. I love that.
Henry Fonda also told her, you know, here she is, this young girl. He told her she was too fat, and she carried that throughout her career.
Yep. And the other thing, not to get too involved with Jane Fonda, but Jane Fonda, when she did those, you know, the exercise books everybody made fun of her about, it was about reclaiming your health and your fitness and not, you know, starving yourself like she had done or developing these eating disorders, but having a healthy exercise regime that would help you with your health and your weight in a healthy way. By the way,
Marjorie and I bumped into Jane Fonda's housekeeper at a party. I don't know if I told you. Okay, we got to talk about things.
Oh, I got to go because Barbara Streisand is waving me over just right now.
I'm a big fan of Jane, obviously.
Okay, let's move on. Band's visit at the Huntington. Who? Jane
He's
Fonda?
mad because he didn't get to interview her.
I've interviewed her tons of times.
Oh, he's interviewed her tons of times.
What are you talking about?
Excuse me. We saw her at a party.
Okay, fine. Okay, December 17th, Band's visit is at the Huntington. I'm going Sunday. The associate director and two of the players are going to join us. And I'm going to beat you for once. I saw it with Tony Shalhoub on Broadway a few years ago. They're Jared Bowen.
La-di-da.
You're only slightly beating me.
How so?
Because I saw it in New York, but Tony Shalhoub was out because he had to go finish filming Mrs. Maisel. So instead, I saw the guy who played the character in the film.
Oh, that counts. Band's I loved it. Yeah. And talk about timely, by the way.
I know.
Tell people. And you had the composer, the guy who wrote the whole thing.
Yeah.
We'll play a little sound from that in a minute on your show. But go ahead.
So the Band's visit is based on an Israeli film from a number of years ago, and it's just a very simple story. It's now been adapted into a musical that won 10 Tonys when it was on Broadway 5 years ago, including Best Musical. And it's about the Alexandria Ceremonial Police Orchestra, who needs to take a bus trip so they can go play at the local Arab Cultural Center. But they're about one consonant off in getting their tickets, and so they land in this small Israeli town where nothing happens in the middle of nowhere. And this is constructed, it's just a short 90-minute beautiful musical, but it's about what happens when you have this Egyptian band come together with the Israelis in this small town, again, where nothing happens, but in an ordinary day, in the middle of nowhere, nothing's happening, it becomes something. And so it's just about ordinary life, and it's beautiful. And obviously it's extremely resonant right now because of what's happening in the world, but that's only a backdrop here, because this is largely a story about how people are just kind of universal at the end of the day, whether you're fighting with your wife about childcare at night, or whether you're too shy and awkward to approach a woman at the skating rink. We're all kind of the same people.
Let's hear some sound from this. Here's writer, musician, Tony Award winner David Yazbek describing how he perceives classical Arabic music on Jared Bowen's The Culture Show.
I tend to often equate musical, the minutiae of music with spices. When I think of classical Arabic music, when I think of the microtones that are used in some of the scales, when I think of that stuff, I just think of that flavor that makes the music very, very interesting and tangy to me.
I love that bite. I think that is great.
Well, it was so interesting because the reason he said that is I asked him what the music sounded like to him, because to me it's just so kind of sweeping. You want to, as I'm doing right now, you just want to gesture, and it's kind of like the sand blowing through the desert, and sort of how lovely it is. And by the way, it's lovely and at the same time hilarious. There is so much humor in this piece, and he writes humor really well. He also did The Full Monty and Tootsie and some other musicals. He's kind of become, I think, the king of film adaptations.
Can we play the song? Do we have time?
Sure, yeah.
You play Omar Sharif?
No. Poppy, Here's the Ocean?
Funny.
Yeah,
okay, here it is.
It's a great play, and again, we're going to have some players and associate director with us on December 1st. It's at the Huntington till December 17th. Central Square, something everybody has either seen or knows a lot about, Rocky Horror Show through November 26th, Central Square Theater.
Yeah, so a lot of people know it as the Rocky Horror Picture Show because of the film. But what people might not realize is that before it was a film, this was a hit cult musical in England. This story of Brad and Janet, who have an unfortunate you have to pull over to the side of the road during a rainstorm, and so they try to go get help, and they do that by knocking on the door of the nearby castle, as one does, and that's where they find Dr. Frankenfurter, who, as the lyrics tell us, is just a sweet transvestite from transsexual Transylvania. And so they're swept into Dr. Frankenfurter's world, and I can only talk about this a little bit because, unfortunately, the night that I was there, they were having some major sound issues, and so I didn't see past the first act because they were trying to work those out. But what I will say is they have a really, really good band, and they make it fun, and they pass out the instructions. So if you've never gone to one of those late night screenings where you know to throw the rice or respond in certain ways to answer some of the dialogue, you can do that in this production too. Even though it's theater, they welcome talking.
Okay, we have a little bit here.
Yes, we do.
A clip from the Rocky Horror. Well, they call this not picture show, but the Rocky Horror Show, right? Because it's not a picture show. Here it is. Rehearsal. That's fabulous. Okay, so Callie chose not to tell us anything that you're doing at 2 o'clock this afternoon on your third show. We will not let you leave until we know exactly what is on the Culture Show in an hour and 11 minutes. What would that be, Jared Bowen?
So Gwyneth Paltrow, you remember the...
Goop!
We don't have
Goop.
Gwyneth Paltrow. Goop, Gwyneth Paltrow, the lady of Goop, was involved with her ski trial. You know, where the guy sued her,
I know that.
That whole thing.
She won.
It's already been, she won her $1, which is all she was suing for, or countersued for. That's already been turned into a musical in London, so we'll be talking about that. Yes. Yep.
That's pretty good.
A ski trial turned into a musical?
And,
wow.
Andre 3000 from Outkast, who...
I loved Outkast.
Yeah, we know from hip-hop and rap, has kind of disappeared for a long time.
Well, he did the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, which was so-so as far. But go ahead.
But is back with a new album all around his interest in the flute. The album just dropped today, and we'll talk more about it on the Culture Show.
Wow.
But I'll tell you why I love this album so much.
Why?
I'll tell you on the Culture Show.
That's right. We have
I
to
don't
tune
like
in.
these
He's
teases.
teasing. He's
I really
teasing.
don't like this at all.
It's okay,
Shirley
Jared.
likes
Go right
it.
ahead. Yes,
okay,
you did.
what else? Is that it or what?
And we're also talking about, do you know that Warner Brothers has now made 2 major films, spent tons and tons of money on films that they essentially threw into the garbage?
Well, Spider-Woman, or is that them?
Batgirl.
Batgirl, whatever. Same thing they made. Batperson, whoever it is.
And then a new movie that people just learned about this week starring John Cena. And they're doing this essentially for tax reasons. So we'll dive into that,
really?
why Warner Brothers
I
is
didn't know
doing
any of this, which is why I have to tune into the Culture Show at 2 to learn.
o'clock.
Okay. Am I going to hear a little flute music?
You will hear some
Oh,
flute
good.
music.
I love the flute.
Fabulous.
Jared Bowen, thank you
Jared,
very
keep
much.
at it. It's pretty great.
We've been speaking
Congratulations, all 3 of you.
with GBH News Executive Arts Editor and host of the Culture Show, Jared Bowen. It airs Fridays at 2 on 89.7. That's right after us. It's going to be on every day starting in December. Okay, after a quick break, we're going to be joined by Boston Globe business columnist Shirley Young. She's going to explain why the MBTA is going to cost $24 billion just to repair it, not even to modernize it or make it future-facing. Yikes, $24 billion. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. We are at the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marge Regan. We're live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News, facebook.com/GBH News. Back here on Tuesday next week, obviously not Friday. That's Thanksgiving, whatever you call it, day after.
Black Friday.
Is it? Oh, Black Friday.
Friday.
That's right. But it isn't the same as it used to be because everybody's shopping 24, whatever.
No one's in their tents in the parking
Whatever.
lot at Best Buy anymore.
I missed that. We're joined now by Shirley Young, Boston Globe business reporter and columnist and weekly contributor to BPR. Also host of the great podcast Say More with Shirley Young, available wherever you get your podcasts. And we'll tell you, by the way, what this one is about, which has a GBH connection in a few minutes. And this coming Monday, she's going to be doing her best impression, actually, of me, as she co-hosts BPR with Marjorie Egan.
I'm going to interrupt you, Marjorie, a lot.
Oh,
Yeah, that's okay.
not funny.
I'm used to it.
Nice to see you, Shirley.
Yeah, but this is going to be really fun. You and I on Monday.
I know. Girl power.
Absolutely. I like to call it an estrogen surge.
Oh, I love that. Estrogen surge.
Yeah, I like that.
That's good. I need to get T-shirts next time.
Don't you think?
Yeah.
So this is just unbelievable.
This
it's
is
like every day
unbelievable.
another disaster story about the poor MBTA. I'm beginning to feel sorry for it. Somehow, back in 2019, when they were talking about how much it was going to cost to fix the T, it was $10 billion. Now, in 2023, we're more than doubled, up to $24.5 billion.
Does that surprise you?
I don't know. I don't know what to think anymore.
It is a lot of money. The big dig was just under $15 billion, but that was in,
It's supposed to be $1.6 billion, I think, when it was proposed.
Yeah.
I haven't listened to every episode of the podcast.
Well, no, but
yet.
I'm just saying $15 billion when it was done.
Yes.
But it's been done for 20 years now.
A long time.
So maybe in today's dollars, it would be closer to.
Or maybe they were just
24
underestimating the depth of the problems 3 years ago or 4 years
well,
ago.
with the T, it sounds like they might, they're. I mean, The number's the number, right? 24 billion. Anybody who rides public transit knows that it's crumbling.
And you ride it a lot.
And I ride everything is old. I think a good chunk of the money is going to help us. It's supposed to upgrade and fix the red line, orange line, blue line, upgrade bridges, tunnels. The next pot of money is the commuter rail. I think $8 billion of upgrades, and then the Green Line and Mattapan trolley is $4.7 billion. So it's a lot of money, but if you want the transit system to work, you got to pay it. You got to do it.
But we should be clear about a bunch of things. One, this is not for some huge, great expansion.
No.
It's the repair and replace, including something like 90% of the tracks, which is unbelievable. Number two, we have done maybe 100 segments in the last few years about how unwilling this legislature has been to appropriate enough money to even get the operating budget in shape. The notion that and by the way, $24 billion based on an assessment from 2 years ago, according to the Globe story, which means 24 is probably 27 now.
Right, exactly.
Or something like that. The notion that, and by the way, say goodbye, Mayor Wu, to free fares, I would argue. I wish she was here last week. I wish she was here this coming week. They're never going to appropriate anywhere near this amount of money to do this. Do you think they are?
Well, they're going to have to figure it out. Obviously, it can't come from all of it from the state. They're going to have to tap some federal money. I mean, I thought that we quoted Congressman Seth Moulton in the piece saying that, listen, we spend $64 billion on highways. So, if we can do that, why can't we spend $24 billion on fixing the T?
I also think that there's an urgency issue here. I mean, Boston is the economic engine of the state, is it not? I mean, we hear all these stories about how people don't want to come to work here because the T doesn't work and everything costs too much.
And people are driving and the traffic is horrible.
Yep. So I think they're going to have to just get somehow an urgent hammer over the head of some of the legislators. I just don't see how.
Are you kidding? What is the evidence that you've seen?
Because it's never been this desperate. When you're talking about people, the traffic, people not wanting to live here, people moving out of the state, like I said, Boston is the economic engine. Are we going to live off what happens in Sturbridge?
When you say it's not this desperate, I don't know how many years ago, Deval Patrick was governor, appoints the head of John Hancock down the street, David D'Alessandro, to do an investigation of the T. He came on our show. The day after our show, it was a front page above the fold headline, what he said. Remember what he said when you asked him?
He didn't want his family.
He didn't want his kids riding on the T. Now, that's not desperate straits for the legislature to do something?
It's not a daily drumbeat.
I agree with Marjorie. I think that, look at the poor red line. They shut down Ashmont for 2 weeks to fix it. It gets fixed. It's great. Now what happens with the red line? Smoke coming out of the red line.
Smoke coming out of the red line.
On a different part of the line. So they can never get ahead. But I do agree
Never
with
is when they're going to fund it,
and
too,
what
by the way.
What are they going to do? Are they going to just let it fall apart?
Yes.
Be a relic
like
here?
They have, exactly.
No, I don't think so.
They'll do Band-Aids forever.
But I think also there's climate concerns.
Exactly.
Too. Driving is a huge contributor to climate change. So I do feel like there is a new sense of urgency and there's new political will to do it.
And the housing. We're talking about building all this multifamily housing. Well, not everybody's going to have parking spaces in their multifamily housing, and there are some places that are building it without even
This is
parking
like an
spaces.
out-of-body experience. I don't know if you remember yesterday's show. We talked about how the legislature has just gone on a 7-week vacation without addressing the life and death needs of migrants and homeless people and their shelter. They left for a 7-week vacation because they don't give a damn about poor people. We're going to come back in 2 weeks and fix it. Occasionally they do some. What's the evidence? You know what the calculation is?
People coming in the Mass Pike can't take it anymore.
I'm sorry. Here's my position about this. And I said this
or
when
93.
you used to harass Deval Patrick on the show about T pensions. Here's the calculation I believe, Shirley, 99% of elected officials make. Is the bridge going to fall down while I'm still in office? And I'm serious, by the way.
Yeah,
and
it
if it's not
probably
going to
is
fall
these
down
days.
while I'm here, then the next guy or woman.
Well, it could fall down right now.
I hope you're both right. I don't see it.
The Mass Pike, is there never a time when there's no traffic on the Mass?
Well, 93, what about the Southeast Express?
You can't get out of Boston, you can't get into Boston, you can't get, it's crazy.
It is really crazy.
Well, you know what? We were going to discuss this at the end, but let's talk about it in a minute. We had Ian Koss and Fred Salvucci on from the first episode
it's a great
of this
podcast.
great GBH, Ian Coss, and he's going to be back on. We're going to take calls with him sometime in December about the final episode dropped. Your podcast has him and his podcast on. What's his takeaway, without giving away too much from the final episode, about whether the whole point is, can we do big things anymore?
Right. Well, that's why he did his 9-part series. He wanted to show, a lot. He grew up. I mean, you guys probably already talked about this.
Yeah,
he
but go ahead.
grew up here, and he grew up in Boston, and he was a toddler, just learning to walk when they started the Big Dig, and he graduated from high school by the time it was finished. And so I think he calls himself part of the Big Dig generation, and I'm one of the. I feel like I'm a little bit a part of that, in that I arrived to Boston when the Central Artery was already depressed. So I have no memory of the highway dividing downtown. I only think of Boston with the Seaport, the Greenway, the Ted Williams Tunnel. I think the Big Dig was worth it. I know traffic was horrible. I know there were cost overruns. I know there was shoddy construction. There's a tragic death of a motorist when a ceiling tunnel fell down because they didn't use the right epoxy. But I think in the end, it made a modern Boston.
It did.
And his point, I think he did this series to show we've done this before. We can do big.
Can we play a little sound?
Yes.
Here's sound from your Say More podcast with Ian Coss. He's the host of this new GBH Big Dig podcast. Here's Ian talking about the bad reputation, which you touched upon vis-a-vis the Big Dig.
It always felt like this real disconnect, that's the idea of it felt so visionary and idealistic, and yet the project as I remember it growing up was just disruption and controversy, and it's so expensive and it's taking forever.
Vilified, really.
Yeah, for sure. And then of course on the other end, on the present day end, it's hard to imagine the city without it.
It's true. I was a vilifier because I was here when it happened, and I was writing for the Herald then. But I'll tell you something else. When I first was here, and I'm older than you, reporters got to ride in a boat out to Boston Harbor to see how dirty it was. And you look out, it was like a chemistry experiment. The water was all bubbling. Right. Everything was dead. We had the Water Resources Authority. Right. We did that, too. That was another big
cleaning up
project.
Cleaning up the harbor was another big infrastructure project.
But a judge ordered that to happen.
True.
That would never have happened. I mean,
Levy,
Paul Levy did a great job as head of the MWRA, but I think he has told us, and I think he said, were it not for the court order, it probably wouldn't have happened.
And Conservation Law Foundation.
Right, exactly right.
Well, maybe some clever attorney can find a way to sue over the conditions of the MBTA. I don't know if that's possible.
Oh, that's a good idea.
By the way, it's a great podcast. You should check it out. You should check out, obviously, Shirley's
Wait, can I have one more thing about podcasts? Sure. One thing, factoid I learned.
Yeah.
I don't know if he talked about it last time, but why are Massachusetts drivers so aggressive?
We didn't talk about that. Why?
You didn't talk about that?
Why?
So in the podcast, you learn Coss has a theory based on talking to someone who's been working on the Central Artery project back then on the Big Dig. And it's because under the old Central Artery, the way the ramps were situated, you had to be aggressive to get on and off the ramps.
That's right. We did talk about that.
It's a legacy of so that's why we're so aggressive.
Yeah, didn't he say there was like a ramp every 400 feet or some crazy thing like that?
So I learned something. It's like this is why we're aggressive. There's so many aggressive drivers here.
Jim, you remember what we learned yesterday? What NIMTOC means?
Oh, from John Bullard, former mayor of New Bedford. What?
Not in my term of office.
Well, that's actually he has a term for what I was just describing a minute ago.
That's a good one.
That.
NIMTOC.
No, we never heard it till yesterday.
I never heard it either. Maybe it's John Bullard. He used to be the mayor of New Bedford. Maybe it's his idea. He used to drive around in cars with Jim when they were trying to tax everybody.
No, we were not. We were trying to stop the largest budget cut in state history, and we prevailed.
NIMTOC. NIMTOC.
I assume the C is from office. I don't know.
It is.
I love
Not in my term of office.
I
That's
love
what it is.
that.
Shirley,
I always learn something new here.
Can I tell you where the press has fallen down on the Starbucks unionization stuff? And let me tell you why. In my opinion.
Okay.
We have covered every single Starbucks location when it's organized, often 10 or 12 workers, not a lot, but it's great they do it. And usually in the 42nd paragraph in the story, the writer, not to fault an individual, says, oh, by the way, there's not one Starbucks in the United States of America which has organized a union where they've been able to negotiate a contract a collective bargaining agreement with Starbucks. By the way, this is not a criticism of the union.
Yeah.
It's the fact that Starbucks is an anti-union, union-busting company that many of us patronize. Not one collective bargaining agreement that I know of in the country.
Oh, so they're just organizing then?
They've organized and they've been recognized by the NLR, National Labor Relations Board,
there's no
whatever it
contract.
is. But they have tried unsuccessfully to convince Starbucks to negotiate collective bargaining agreements, and without a collective bargaining agreement, you don't have
what
one.
happened? So how do you get a collective bargaining agreement?
The employer has to negotiate in good faith. The union contends that they do not.
And they filed a complaint, I believe.
Yeah, and as somebody who used to negotiate contracts when I did a union thing, winning those things 3 years after you filed your complaint is not worth very much. The NLRB is not very worker friendly.
Right.
So for those of us, and I occasionally go myself patronizing Starbucks, realize we celebrated the union victories. Good for these baristas.
But there's no
and they're
contract.
getting screwed.
Because there's no contract. I didn't realize that.
And there was a mini walkout yesterday because of Red Cup Day.
Red
what is
Cup
that?
Rebellion. So I guess every year, once a year, Starbucks customers get like free red reusable cups, and I guess yesterday was that day, and so unionized workers decided to form a Red Cup Rebellion. I think there are about 200 locations around the country that participated, a half dozen here in Massachusetts. But yeah, I didn't realize that. I was wondering about that if anyone has successfully had
Jamie or Nicole, can you, just so that I'm not giving up bad information, you confirm what I said, or not confirm it, that there's no collective bargaining agreement for any unionized Starbucks?
I'm surprised that the Starbucks management won't come to the table because Starbucks, the founding kind of the CEO Howard Schultz who made Starbucks into the juggernaut it is today. I mean, I used to cover him when I was at the Wall Street Journal, and he really bragged about giving good benefits and stock options to.
Because he's full of it. Howard Schultz, when one of the first unionizing efforts happened a couple of years ago, I can't remember where it was. He went himself to the location, like 15 workers, so obviously it wasn't a big deal, but he was worried the door is open. A worker, from what I read, respectfully complains about a condition there to the president of the company, and rather than saying, Schultz saying, I hear you, we'll try to fix this, I'd prefer we fix it without a union, whatever he would say, you know what he said to the guy, if you don't like it working here, why don't you quit?
Wow.
That's the kind of attitude that Howard Schultz, the great titan of industry, showed to a barista in one of his damn stores. So much for him.
It seems like they're asking for better scheduling.
They're not looking. It doesn't appear like trying to break the bank.
Right, better staffing.
I agree.
I think one other thing was really interesting. Everybody is talking about mobile ordering, right, and how mobile ordering could overwhelm the staff at times as well.
300, this is according to CNBC yesterday. Thank you, whoever did that, Jamie. 360 Starbucks, roughly 9,000 company out of 9,000 company locations have voted to unionize. No location has come close to a collective bargaining agreement. You should write about it. You should write about it, really.
She should.
Wow.
By the way, we had a barista on maybe 2 years ago when this started who had worked at her Starbucks for like 15 years. And her primary issue, if I remember correctly, was as modest as what you were just talking about, not getting called in, like on 12 hours, decent schedule so she could lead a life, take care of her kid or whatever the hell she was doing. It's horrible. It's it's horrible. I got a Tesla and I go to Starbucks. I mean, what is my excuse for any of those things? None.
Okay, when we were talking earlier this week about Senator Mark Wayne Mullen from Oklahoma and Teamsters President Sean O'Brien almost getting into a fist fight, get up out of your seat or pick your butt up, whatever they do. Yeah, we'll play the sound in a second. I didn't know as much about Sean O'Brien as I do now. Apparently he was a Medford High School linebacker and captain of the football team, made the statewide all-star team, and spent a lot of time in the weight room, so he could have seen something really quite dramatic
there. Well, it's also part of the Teamsters.
That's right, yeah. And I guess multi-generations of Teamsters, right? His grandfather, his father, and Sean O'Brien. But anyway, Jim alluded to the sound, that's right. There was a big moment for Bernie Sanders and for the two of them, Mullins and the senator, on this Senate hearing on worker strikes, and Bernie jumps in after Senator Mullins challenged Sean O'Brien, Teamsters president, to a fight.
You want to run your mouth? We can be two consenting adults. We can finish it here.
Okay, that's fine. Perfect.
You want to do it now?
I'd love to do it right now.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand your butt up.
Oh, hold on.
Big guy.
Oh, stop it.
Is that your solution or we pull it? No, sit down. Sit down. Okay. No, you're a United States Senator. Sit down. Okay. Sit down, please.
All right. Can I respond, Mr.
Hold it. I love that.
Oh my God! And now Mullen, though, this is surprising too. What's his background? He's some kind of fighter, right?
He's a mixed martial arts.
Mixed
martial arts. Thank you. So it would have been the guy in the weight room at Medford High School who looks like a formidable guy to me, versus the mixed martial arts guy.
Right.
And the senator's 46. But O'Brien is only 34. Plus, he's from Boston.
No, O'Brien is not 34.
No, he's not 34. He's got to be a little bit older than that. No?
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry.
Whatever
you're
wrong.
He was 34 when he was. I'm sorry. Should get this straight. Well, he was 34 in 2006. So what is he now, Jim?
I would hire Sean
51.
for security. I would
51.
hire him to do security for me.
Yeah.
Let me just tell you something. I can't believe you're discussing the comparative physical attributes. I think the topic is maybe a senator shouldn't challenge a witness before Congress to a fist fight. Don't you think that's
I think
a
you
more
should never
appropriate
mess
topic?
with a Teamster. That's what I've
agreed.
always
I think
thought.
that was the message for me.
Yeah.
It's like,
Do not mess.
Do not mess with the Teamsters.
Yeah.
And then, but you know this cage fight thing. It's a thing.
Yeah.
Among
we had Ben Mesrick on the other day who just wrote Break Twitter, or Twitter broke, what is it called?
Breaking Twitter.
Breaking Twitter,
yes.
About Elon Musk.
Yes.
And we asked him about whether or not he wanted to see a Zuckerberg,
Mark
Musk
Zuckerberg,
cage
Facebook
match.
founder
kind
and
of
cage match. What did he say?
I think his answer, I don't think he answered whether he'd like it. I think he said that even though Musk is a big guy, that Zuckerberg is trained.
He's also a martial art. I think he's also a martial arts trained.
Zuckerberg.
Right? Yeah, Zuckerberg.
So I think he thought.
And they both
Zuckerberg
have been, or at least I've seen the Mark Zuckerberg. He's been putting online like his training,
fights,
his
training,
to show. I mean, it's
that's
like
grown up.
It's
that's really, very grown
I guess I'm saying it's a thing among grown men.
Okay. Do we have any more time?
You know what we should do? I just realized, in the spirit of the same spirit, why don't we challenge some hosts at BUR? Why don't we? We call some of them up, say, get your butt up.
That's right. We could have the national.
They can say, get your butt up, and then we can.
No, but what would be the NPR version of that? Would you sing? Would you do a bake-off?
It would probably be a bake-off. We'd probably do a ping-pong match.
Ping-pong match. Yes, I like that. Ping-pong match.
Jamie just suggested we love Robin Young. Robin Young versus Marjorie. How great would that be?
I see her at Robin Young at yoga.
You can have a yoga off.
Yoga off. Yes, I love it.
Woman.
And you guys do it for charity.
That's right. We could do it for charity. I would be afraid she'd probably whip my you-know-what, but maybe not.
She is rather fit.
Well,
so are you, actually.
Very fit.
Yeah,
she's very fit.
You've got guns.
Guns, that's right.
You got strong
yoga guns. Yoga guns.
You got yoga
that's
guns,
right.
Marjorie.
Okay, Shirley. Next, Shirley's going to be co-hosting with me on Monday because Jim is taking yet another day off.
I'm taking yet another
Shirley
day off.
Shirley and I are going to keep the fort manned, or womaned, as it were.
By the way, in 30 seconds, and that's all we have because we have Jacques Pépin waiting, and we love you too, but we love Jacques Pépin.
Jacques Pépin.
The Everett Soccer Stadium, not only is the legislature go home before they did anything, when I read the story in the Globe this morning, it's on the border of Boston, and no one ever thought to include Mayor Wu's people in the discussions?
I don't think Mayor Wu was blindsided, but I think she's expressing, I think I should have a role. I want to be part of this here. And this is not the first time
I feel a column coming.
This is not the first time she has tussled with Kraft in a soccer stadium. This happened when she was city councilor Wu. And remember when Mayor Walsh wanted to perhaps let the Kraft.
Was this?
No, by the tow lot. By Wedette Circle, the tow lot.
Yeah.
And so she said, no, there needs to be a transparent process. This doesn't seem like a very transparent process on Beacon Hill with the craft, the rezoning of that casino. Now, I thought it was dead, completely dead. This idea is like, okay, Mayor Wu Ways is clearly sending a signal saying we need to go back to the drawing board. Oh, she definitely wants something. But then my colleague, John Chesto, who's been writing the story, was saying, I don't think it's dead. He still thinks it's alive. He gives it a 50-50
Well,
chance.
except let me just say before you go, there's a problem here. They have a very narrow window. They have the 7-week vacation now, and then they have to go on their 5 months vacation.
That's right.
Next August. So they only have that little window to actually do something for the people.
You know what is amazing? Remember we'd have Charlie Baker, you'd ask him some question that was very convoluted, and he'd give you a line-by-line explanation of what. She's the same way. I mean, she was talking about the problem with the fossil fuel-free buildings, and she gave this explanation of electrical
For 10
wires
minutes.
and I mean,
Filibustering.
No,
No,
well, I don't think
she
so.
was.
Oh, okay.
I think she just knows everything.
But
Yes,
maybe.
she does.
I mean,
That's
she
fair,
does. I
maybe.
think that's fair.
It's
I think
really
that's real.
impressive.
Okay, we
Yeah,
gotta
she
go.
and Baker do know a lot.
They did
They're
know a
very,
lot.
Well,
very
actually, there are a
smart.
lot of pilots who are really smart. But
Not
those are-
everybody. No,
I don't
no,
think
not
so.
everybody.
I think
there are a lot
No,
who aren't.
no.
I'm with you, Shirley.
Not everybody.
I think that
They're
they are
smart enough to take a
unusual.
7-week vacation, aren't
Baker and we were exceptional.
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah,
Okay,
Others
goodbye.
not so much.
Yeah, that's
Bye.
right. We'll be able to talk without you,
Great to
Jim,
see you.
on Monday. Just want to let you know.
No, you are not. I'm calling in. Believe me, I'm free that day. I'm calling in every segment.
Okay.
Blocking calls, guys.
Yeah, we have been
Believe me, you don't
speaking
need to urge them to do that.
with Boston Globe business columnist, host of the Say More podcast with Shirley Young, the Boston Globe columnist.
see
Of course,
you,
it's the
Shirley.
same person, Shirley Young, and you can get her Say More podcast wherever you get your podcast. There's so many great ones, and the one about the Big Dig is really great too. And the Big Dig podcast itself, which is done in association with GBH, is wonderful. After a quick break, Jacques Pépin, the legendary Jacques Pépin, zooms in to us here at the library. He's going to talk to us about his latest cookbook and some other things, including getting ready for the holidays, cooking my way, recipes and techniques for economical cooking. Jacques Pépin is next. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. I'm Jim Browdy. She's Marjorie Egan. We're live at the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News, facebook.com/GBH News. Back here Tuesday, not Friday. It's the day after Thanksgiving. We're joined now on Zoom by an incredibly decent, warm, great human being, Jacques Pépin. Obviously, French chef, author, culinary educator, TV personality, artist. He's a brilliant artist. We'll talk about that too. He's the winner of 16 James Beard Awards, a Daytime Emmy Lifetime Achievement Award, a longtime close friend of the great Julia Child, author of over 30 cookbooks, and he's just out with another one, the fabulous Cooking My Way, Recipes and Techniques for Economical Cooking. Here's a clip of Chef Pépin not too long ago, October of 2017, when he was on our show with his terrific granddaughter, Shori Wesson. That was, again, Boston Public Radio in 2017.
What were you doing in the kitchen when you were 2? Not too much, I presume.
No, not. I definitely wasn't like chopping or anything.
She was eating chocolate.
Mostly, yeah. No, I spent a lot of time just sort of sitting with my grandfather and my parents and maybe stirring sometimes and just helping in the few ways that I could.
I love them together. In any case, he's going to be in town, Jacques is, on November 30th for GBH's A Conversation with Jacques Pépin. Tickets are on sale now. I would not miss it. For more information, go to gbh.org/events. Jacques Pépin, it is wonderful to see you again. Thanks for zooming in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you very much for being here. Here's the gorgeous cookbook with the gorgeous cover.
It is indeed.
And the cookbook shows a lot of your great artwork, which we talked about before. But tell people, Jacques Pépin, as Jim just said, you have written 30 cookbooks. How is this one different? What is the theme?
Well, the theme is economy in the kitchen. I mean, it's part of all my cookbook anyway, but actually in the 80s, I had a column in the New York Times called The Purposeful Cook, which was to cook for a family of 6 for the minimal amount of money. And I retake that theme with some of those stuff, and that's basically what it is. I mean, I have many cookbooks I did 13 series of 26 shows on television, and each time there is a theme, and each time there is a book. That's why I have so many books, I guess.
You know, Jacques, one of the things you say in your book, which made me feel really good, is the first time you do a recipe, you should follow it to a T. No creativity, just follow it exactly as is. Why do you say that, Jacques?
I mean, to do justice to whoever wrote the recipe, yeah, you should do it. People try to change it at the beginning. No, you should do it exactly the way it is. If it comes out good, you like it, you're likely to do it again. And the second time you do it, you take a faster look. By the third time, you won't even look. And a year later, you massage that recipe enough. You don't put much tomato, you put less onion, you put more of this, less of that. It has become your recipe. You massage it and you set it for your sense of taste, for your sense of aesthetic, and it becomes your recipe. Mm-hmm. That's the proper process, in my opinion.
But you're talking about the economy of cooking. I know that when you grew up in France, you were there during World War II when you had to couldn't get butter or you couldn't get meat more than once a month. So you learned about the economy of cooking as a young man. Tell us about that.
It's true, but it's also part of the culture. You know, I mean, whether you go to West Africa, or China, even Russia, I mean, there is no place where we spoil food and discard food as we do here. So it's part of the culture also, but in addition to that, of course, there was a restriction during the war. We didn't have basically anything. I realize even the war stopped in 1945, but we still had ticket in France to buy butter and certain things until the end of 1947, I believe.
Wow.
So, you know, ingredients were restricted. And my mother is a very miserly cook, and she had that little restaurant. So I certainly learned how to cook with her and never throw out if my father threw out a piece of bread, which was molded, he may have kissed it first, and when he threw it out, he threw it to the chicken anyway.
So I read in my condolences, I know you lost your wife just a few years ago, and my condolences to you about that. But you've heard a lot of great stories about cooking with your wife, and I know one of them involves tell us about making the soups from the vegetables that were about to go south in the refrigerator.
Yeah, that's what Gloria baptized fridge soup. So you open the refrigerator, I have a wilted salad, I have a piece of onion, half a carrot, a piece of tomato. Everything goes into a pot with a couple of quarts of water or chicken stock. You boil it, and then you finish it with a handful of pasta or polenta or anything thickening a little bit at the end. So, we do that all the time, and it's great because it's never the same thing. The soup is always different, whatever you have left over. Even pieces of meat or stew that you have from the day before, you can cut it, put it in the soup. Yeah, so that's a universal dish.
By the way, Jacques Pépin, you don't need to hear this from me. You look terrific, by the way. I mean, you really look terrific. I hope you were as well as you look. One of the times we were lucky enough to spend time with you, you were kind enough to give me an ceramic olive oil container, and what was painted on it was a chicken, one of your legendary paintings. Marjorie has some dish towels that are beautiful with your paintings.
Yes.
What gives you, does one art, cooking, painting, does one give you greater satisfaction than the other, Jacques Pépin?
No, one completes me more than the other one completes me. I mean, there are similarities between writing, cooking, panning. In front of a white page when you have to write an article, or in front of a white canvas, and even in the kitchen. So often I would start a panning. I don't really know exactly where I'm going. I have an idea too, but at some point, usually, the painting take a hold of me and I react to it. So I add that color or that shape without trying to validate it, just because it feels right.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, in the cooking, in the professional world, it's the same thing, If I work in a restaurant and you do one of the specialties, let's say a chicken with the mushroom, well, I may do 10 times the order the same evening. It will come out exactly the same at the end. It will taste exactly the same. But if you really take note, each time that I didn't do it one time exactly the same way. because maybe the chicken is slightly thinner or this, or my part is a little, the skeleton is a bit warmer or whatever. So you just react, you adjust, react, taste, adjust. So it's the same thing too. When I paint, you react to the painting, and when I cook, I react to the food by testing, adjusting, and so forth.
That's obviously the voice of Jacques Pépin. His newest cookbook is Cooking My Way, Recipes and Techniques for Economical Cooking. You know, Jacques, since you mentioned chicken, we can't miss an opportunity to play sound that we play almost every time you join us. This incredible exchange with your good buddy, Julia Child. He starred with her in this PBS series called Julia and Jacques Cooking at Home. And this is a little debate the two of them had about chicken. Here it is.
I've washed it with hot water. And if we take in...
I don't wash my chicken.
And he doesn't wash his. I think in France, they're not as worried about things as we are they?
Well, I live in Connecticut, pretty far from France.
I love that. Can you describe, and you know, a lot of young people don't know your relationship with the other legendary cook, Julia Child. Explain your relationship, Jacques, if you can, for a minute, and then we'll return to the cookbook.
But I came to this country in 1959. The food world was very, very small. Within a year, I knew the trinity of cooking in America, which was Craig Laborde, who started at the New York Times, James Beard, and Julia Child. So I met her in 1960. So we were friends for half a century. So yeah, the food world was very, very small. She taught with me at BU. I cook at her house many times, you know, in Irving Street there where she lived in Cambridge, and she cooked at my house too. So you know, we were friends for many years. We had a great time. We drank a lot of together.
But why don't you wash your chicken? Why don't you wash the chicken?
What's the point? I'm going to put it into the oven at 425 for an hour.
What's the point?
If there is any bacteria still living, they deserve to live.
Yeah. I think we fetishize a lot of germ things in the United States. You feel like if you don't wash...
especially if you're going to cook them.
Yeah, and I've been told that too by Corby Cummer that we talked to a lot about food. He says, you don't have to wash your chicken, you have to dry it off. I don't even know if you do that, but that's what I've been told. You dry it off to get rid of the possible salmonella, Jacques Pépin. Is that... Do you dry it off or just throw it right in the oven at 425?
I have been known to wash chicken. You know, I buy a chicken, I smell it. If it smells bad, I vinegar onto it and wash it. Because, but if it's normal, I don't. As I said, you know, the bacteria.
Jacques Pépin, we're going to end the show after we talk to you a few more minutes, asking people about the things that are traditional for Thanksgiving that they're just not that into. I was going to say a rare bird, and I didn't mean that as a pun, even though it is. I eat turkey all year round, and when I opened your cookbook last night, I was so happy to see you seem to feel the exact same way. Why? Why are you there?
Well, I was not raised with Thanksgiving as a holiday, so turkey was part of like chicken, I mean, part of the different type of recipe you do throughout the year. And certainly there is many, many ways of doing turkey besides roasting it. So that being said, I mean, for me, Thanksgiving is the greatest of all holidays. There is no celebration of some type of war where like thousands of people get dead, or some type of religious experience. It's just simply to get together, bring food and wine, and enjoy life. So that's the greatest holiday for me.
What about, though, I never heard of this, roasting a turkey with mayonnaise?
Chicken.
Well, it's turkey too.
Oh, turkey too?
Yeah,
okay.
I think.
Oh, yes, you can do the breast of the turkey. Actually, my friend Susie did that to me at my house one day, and she did it with turkey. So, yes, I mean, there is many ways, of using turkey. In fact, in one of my books, even I remember I steam it. I steam it for like an hour, and after that, you can do it the day before, and then the day after, you put it into the oven, and it stays very moist. This way, you save some time. because you steam it in like 3, 4, 5 cups of water. You get that water with the neck and the gizzard to do the sauce. So it works out pretty well. So I must have done turkey 5 or 6 different ways. I mean, roasting it. Yeah.
So we know you're a Renaissance guy. You wrote the column in the New York Times. You got the cooking books, all the great chef, worked
Great
at Howard
artist.
Johnson's, all these things, painter. I did not know that you were a ski instructor in your youth. Tell us about that.
That's how I met my wife.
Yeah.
Upstate New York in the Catskills, we had a Hunter Mountain. I was there, I skied there for like 11 years. So my wife took a private lesson with me. Well, she didn't tell me she was in the ski patrol. She ski better than me anyway. I'm banging on her leg, saying, "Bend your knees." So, yes.
So she spotted she spotted you in your skiing togs and said, "I want a lesson with this guy." Is that what happened?
Yes, that's what happened.
How did that happen for you? Did you learn to ski at home in when you were growing up, or did you learn to ski here?
No, I've skied 1 or twice, walking with ski, but I never skied in France.
Yeah.
I started here, upstate New York in the Catskills, and after a couple of years, the ski instructor, the director of the ski school, asked me if I wanted to teach, and I said, great. So, I wear the red uniform, and I didn't wait in line, and
Jacques Pépin, by the way, the name of the book, which is wonderful, and it's also beautiful because it's got so much of Jacques' art in it, is called Cooking My Way, Recipes and Techniques for Economical Cooking. You also have another habit that I was unfamiliar with, what I'd like you to explain the value of to us. I am told that you have 7 gin-soaked raisins every day. Is that a true story or is that not?
I don't know if it's 7. I just eat a spoon of it.
Why? Why?
I don't know. I don't know whether it's my daughter or someone told me you have to soak the dry raisins in gin, and you have a teaspoon of that, and it's great for your health. You'll never be sick if you do that too fast. I don't know about that, but I know it tastes good. So I have.
Well, it's terrific. Jacques, please say hi to your daughter and your son-in-law and your granddaughter. It's wonderful to see you again.
Well, sure, my granddaughter is the second year at BU now.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, that's great.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
You can get a visit in when you come to town then.
Well, I'm teaching there the 28, 29, whatever, so I'll see her, yeah?
So go ahead.
And then my daughter, of course, and grandson, my son-in-law teaches at BU occasionally as well. So I have been very lucky because he's the one created the Jacques Pépin Foundation. My daughter created Facebook, and so forth. I would never have done that, myself.
I just have one question before you go. Our listeners at home can't see you, but I can see you, and the people in the library can see you. You were sitting in your kitchen in Connecticut, right? And
yes.
you've got behind you a wall with about 35 gorgeous-looking, shiny pans, cooking pans. Now, is this just for decoration, or do you actually take those pans off the wall and use them?
No, I use them. I have to say that I use the copper less and less. It's too heavy for me now. But otherwise, I always thought that pots were attractive, and instead of having to fight somewhere in a closet to find the right pot, I put them on the wall to decorate on driftwood like this. So no, I always did that. But I use the pot, yes.
Okay, they look beautiful.
Jacques, it's great to see you. Good luck with everything and the cookbook. Hope to see you again soon. Be well.
Thank you. Happy cooking.
Thank
Happy
you.
cooking to
Thank
you
you
too.
so much for being with us.
By the way, you say people can't see him. Facebook.com/GBH
That's right.
News.
That's right.
YouTube.com/GBH
People
News.
streaming. That's right. I'm sorry. Thank you
okay.
very much, Jim.
You're welcome.
Jacques Pépin, of course, is a legendary French chef, author, culinary educator, television personality, artist, and ski instructor. His latest book is Cooking My Way, Recipes and Techniques for Economical Cooking. For more information about his November 30th GBH event, which is sure to be a wonderful evening, go to gbh.org/events. Jacques Pépin, thank you so much for being with us. Okay, after a quick break, we are less than a week away from Thanksgiving. Martha Stewart says she's really had it with Thanksgiving, unlike Jacques Pépin.
So I heard.
She's sick of it. Well, are you? Are you sick of turkey? Are you sick of canned cranberries and all the other usual fix-ins? Boring fix-ins? Call or text us 877-301-8970. How do you feel about Thanksgiving? 877-301-8970.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy, Marge Regan. We're live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News, facebook.com/GBH News. We're back here Tuesday, obviously not Friday because of Thanksgiving. We have one more segment in our show, but don't go away. At 2 o'clock, the Culture Show, the third of the Culture Shows, begins. Speaking of Thanksgiving, here is Martha Stewart on the Kelly Clarkson Show this week saying she's canceling the whole thing this year.
Oh, I gave up Thanksgiving. I canceled. Somebody canceled. 9 guests canceled because somebody got sick.
Oh, no.
So I decided, I called up my chef friend, and I said, we're not doing Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And I've also cooked like 14 turkeys already for my TV show.
You kind of done it.
Yeah. And I still have to do one more turkey, I think, on the Today Show. So
You're a little turkeyed out.
I am turkeyed out.
She's turkeyed out. So we aren't all cooking 15 turkeys this year as part of the annual Mad Dash to the dinner table on Thanksgiving, but still are you, as Martha puts it, turkeyed out. The number is 877-301-8970. That's the number to call or text. If you had enough of the usual stuff on Thanksgiving, a dry bird, I love turkey, too many bland sides, a jalopy can of cranberry sauce with the ridges still visible. The flip side is, are you looking forward to the tradition and that fabulous Pepperidge Farm stuffing smothered with too much delicious butter and gravy? The number is 877-301-8970. And let's get on the list. I love turkey. Go ahead.
I do not like it.
So do you have turkey for Thanksgiving?
I put a lot of gravy on it.
Okay.
Makes it taste better.
So it doesn't taste like turkey.
Right.
I love sweet potatoes. You like sweet potatoes?
Love them.
Oh, you do?
Yes, I do.
Oh, because they're potatoes.
Any
You
kind
like
of
any kind of potato.
Any kind of
How do you feel
potatoes.
about green bean casserole?
Not great.
Love green bean casserole. How do you feel about cranberries?
Well, you know, this is weird. I prefer the canned cranberries to the
fresh?
real cranberries. Yeah.
That's embarrassing.
I guess that's a bad sign.
And by the way, even though I love, you ever made a Pepperidge Farm stuffing?
No.
A little boiling water, butter, sausage, whatever. I make homemade stuffing.
You do?
And I have to, yes, I do.
Are you cooking for Thanksgiving?
No.
Or are you going out for Thanksgiving?
Maybe. So don't ask me again. In any case, what's my point? Oh, my point is, it's embarrassing to say, I think Pepperidge Farm may be even better, which is really horrible because it's processed and it's crappy, but I like it. So we want to know, essentially, how you feeling. By the way, the one word, you know how certain words for no reason totally set you off? When you said fixins a minute ago.
Fixins.
I hate that.
All the fixins.
I hate that.
Well,
and I don't know why. I so I don't want to say
it was
that
an
word, the
ad-lib
F
on my
word.
part,
No, it
Jim.
was brilliant.
Wasn't in the
ad-lib.
script.
It's fabulous.
Fixins.
But what I'm trying to say, what am I trying to say? Oh, I'm trying to say.
You don't like the word fixins.
I said that. Let's not say it anymore. What am I talking about? Oh, I'm talking about
Fixins.
the traditional things you have on Thanksgiving. Which do you like? Let me read you some statistics before you, well, you're calling
Yeah.
in already. The lines are full. In any case, 32% of people surveyed hate cranberries. That apparently is the most hated traditional
I know. I was
fixin'.
surprised to see that.
29% hate sweet potatoes.
That's right.
28% hate green bean casserole. And I think this number is low. I think a lot of people don't like turkey. 27% don't like turkey. And I'm with Jacques Pépin. I love turkey.
Pépin.
Oh, I said that. I'm with Jacques Pépin
Yep.
all year
All year.
round turkey thing. It's a great
You
thing.
didn't ask
Plus,
me about the fixins.
can I tell you, it's cheap. That was a big mistake on my part. That was a huge
How about
mistake.
creamed onions?
I like creamed
Yeah, I
onions.
like those,
I like
too.
the traditional
Yeah, I like those, too.
Thanksgiving
And don't forget
kinds
the
of
mashed
things.
potatoes.
I like ham, too,
Yeah.
since you asked.
Yeah. So a lot of people are very big on Thanksgiving here. You know why? Because it's not the pressure of presents. No presents.
How great was what he said as to why it's his favorite holiday? Not celebrating wars, not celebrating killing people, not just a beautiful get-together kind of thing. Whatever. Okay, let's take some calls. Barbara in Somerville, you were first on Boston Public Radio. Thank you. Hi.
Hi, love the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. You totally triggered me. You totally
Why's
triggered me
that?
with the canned cranberry sauce.
Why?
Well, I just taught them as a third graders how to make homemade cranberry sauce yesterday. So, and it took 15 minutes, and they were like licking the pans when
It's
they were done.
fabulous.
So-
Homemade is fabulous. I'm with you.
And it's so easy, and it's it's cheap. Nobody got burned. Nobody got cut. So that's a triumph in and of itself.
Two questions for you, Barbara. What's the key ingredient in good homemade, other than cranberries, obviously? What's the key ingredient other than cranberries in good homemade cranberry sauce?
There's two: grated ginger and orange zest.
Yeah, orange zest is huge. Orange zest is totally great.
Orange zest is great.
And my second and final questions, would you not agree that the term fixins should be banned from the English language? Yes or no?
I don't know what that even means.
Exactly.
I refer to them as sides. if that's what you're
Sides.
talking
Thank
about.
you.
So-
Sides.
Sides. Yeah,
Barbara's my kind of person.
Yeah,
Thank you, Barbara.
That's what they are. The fixins are the cranberry sauce, the mashed potatoes, the different kinds of potatoes that you want to have, the cranberry sauce.
You eat cranberry sauce out of a can
onions.
and you just slice it?
I don't usually eat cranberry sauce.
But if you do, you serve it sliced from a can?
I have never served it. No one asked me to cook on Thanksgiving,
God.
Jim. I have not cooked Thanksgiving in
That's really shocking, by the way.
25 years, 30 years.
Okay.
I had one Thanksgiving, and that was the last one.
How'd that go?
For me. Did not go well.
Okay, fine. Here's a woman correctly...
You know what the problem is? If
No.
you have to the right temperature in the oven, otherwise
that's really hard.
the turkey never cooks.
Well, what you can
and
do...
then everybody's drinking.
You can actually put a
and
thermometer
drinking.
in it and find out what the temperature is.
I'm not a great cook,
That's
as we
pretty
know.
radical. Here's a woman correctly berating a family member for experimenting with a Thanksgiving recipe. Here you go.
But you decided to do some bullshit you done seen off the damn internet. Don't experiment on damn Thanksgiving. Don't experiment on Thanksgiving. You experiment by your damn self. Hell, don't try it with us. We don't want that.
I am so with that woman, I cannot tell you. 877-301-8970. You want to take a call?
This is a person that's making toasted salmon with sides of dressings and vegetables with a fresh cranberry-based dessert.
I'm
That's
fine with-
Susan from Cranston. Salmon.
I am fine.
And the fixins, of
Ham and
course.
salmon, it is fine, but without turkey, in my humble opinion, it is not Thanksgiving. That's all I want to say. It's not all I want to say, but it's part of what I want to say.
Oh, you know, Pamela just texted to say the reason that Jacques Pépin, in addition to putting the chicken in the oven at a hot temperature, doesn't clean the chicken, wash the chicken, because his feeling is that the bacteria does not die after cooking at a high heat for 2 hours, then the bacteria deserves to live, Jim.
Really?
Yes.
Well, okay. I would side with Jacques Pépin myself.
Okay.
Let's go to Natalie in Fairhaven. Here she is.
Hi, how are you?
I think we're quite well. Thank you for asking.
Thank you. Thanks for taking the call.
Sure.
As I told your operator, I'm prepping for Thanksgiving right now. I love Thanksgiving.
Why?
Why? Because it's a time for, well, I like to cook.
Yeah.
I love it when the kids come and the grandkids come.
That's
and
nice.
The couple times that I did not cook, I cried.
Oh.
Because it was so bad that other people's cooking was
I
terrible?
was sad that she wasn't cooking. She liked doing it, right?
Exactly. We were in a fabulous inn at a very nice restaurant having Thanksgiving dinner, and I just was crying because I wasn't with my family and I hadn't done the cooking.
Oh.
That is sad.
Sorry.
I love that sentiment, though.
Yeah.
Natalie, that's
Yeah.
fabulous. So what is there any of the traditional Thanksgiving dishes you would like to delete from the menu, or is that, or no?
Well, the one thing I deleted, my mother used to make butternut squash, which I don't like.
Oh,
She would just
love butternut.
boil
Love
the
it.
she would boil the hell out of it and just mash it, and it was tasteless. So I replaced that with sweet potatoes. But I do.
You don't put marshmallows on the whoa. You don't put marshmallows on this. Okay,
that's
fine.
bad.
That is,
That's bad.
No,
No,
go-
I toss it with olive oil and add spices.
Oh, you know how to live, my friend.
Oh, all right.
Not only that is fabulous. Now, I got to do a little history before we take our next. Are we taking this next call? Yes, we are. Okay. The other day, Lydia Bastianich was on, and what is one of the things that Lydia owns, Marjorie?
Lydia owns a bunch of restaurants.
What does she own down the street?
Oh, Italy.
What happened in Italy several months ago?
Well, there was a woman who was visiting Italy with her husband, and apparently
New
she
Hampshire.
slipped on a piece of prosciutto.
No, she allegedly slipped
on
a piece of prosciutto.
And she sued
She
Italy.
sued.
Yes.
Now, there was a woman who called who said essentially this was BS and gave an incredible explanation about how it is physically impossible to slip on a piece of prosciutto. We played that for Lydia Bastianich.
Yep.
And I think she was pleased. And the woman who said she would be willing to be an expert witness because she referred to the woman who slipped as a stupid woman is back on the line from Fall River. Liliana, welcome to the show. How are you,
Hi,
Liliana?
Liliana.
Oh, Jim, you're causing an awful lot of agita. Okay?
Thank you. Sorry.
Because every time you mention it, my daughter calls and says, would you please stay out of the radio? All of my girlfriends are calling me.
Well, you're a pretty powerful spokesperson. Now, Liliana.
It's too late now, Liliana. Too late.
What do you think
I
about
know.
Thanksgiving, Liliana?
I like Thanksgiving. I came here 58 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's what we were presented with for Thanksgiving. and my mother-in-law used to make it, and then on with the other part of the family. Then my children took over. But this year, because of they cannot do it, I'm doing it.
Oh,
and
you're
I'm
doing
really
it.
enjoying it. Yes. I'm sitting here. I just finished setting the table,
Fabulous.
all the color coordinated.
Yeah.
I watched Lydia this morning,
Yeah.
and she had an awesome salad with fennel. And I use it for Thanksgiving. I like the fennel salad. And then I am going to Marjorie. I'm going to Venus de Milo to get the stuffing.
Venus
Explain
de
what
Milo.
Venus de Milo is,
Oh my
Margaret.
goodness, Venus de Milo is where I went to every big event in my life, bar mitzvahs,
It's
weddings.
open now. It's open.
Now,
They're
Liliana,
It's
wait.
the new one. It's a revamped one, right?
Yes.
But Liliana, remember, I mean, it used to have a bad overflowing septic system smell there, but that's all
That was a long
gone
time
now, I
ago. That's
hope,
fine.
right?
It's all gone.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
gone. That's
Liliana,
good.
I have a
That's
question
good.
for you. We're thrilled you called, by the way. Tell your daughter we're fine with whatever you say about anything. Why are you setting the table today when Thanksgiving is 6 days away?
Because there is one thing out of the way.
Oh,
so
that's
you
a
can
good point.
concentrate of making things better, cooking, not rushed. And, I'm making mushrooms. I always have to make funghi trifolati.
Yeah.
That is cooked with parsley and olive oil and garlic.
Sure. Now, Liliana,
and,
wait a second. I have one more question for you. I don't know if you know Jamie Bologna, who's our lead producer here. He happens to be Italian. He speaks Italian fluently. He just got back from 2 weeks in Italy.
His little boy
Husband and
speaks
kid.
Italian.
He says his family does his Italian family, two types of stuffing. The traditional one and a sausage, broccoli wrap stuffing. You do that too?
Well, the sausage I do because that's what I learned from my mother.
I figured, yeah.
They used to do the sausage.
Yeah.
But this year, I have an in with the Venus de Milo.
You have an in, okay.
And so I'm getting the stuffing.
Oh, you sly
Oh, my
dog,
God.
Liliana.
The Venus de Milo.
Hey, Liliana, we love hearing from you. Please call often, and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. One thing I have to say.
What?
Every morning, I have my cappuccino with your cup, and I look at your beautiful faces, and I start my day that way.
You are the
my
sweetest
gosh.
woman ever.
Liliana,
That's
you
the
have-
smug mug.
Thank you very
Liliana,
much.
we love
Thank you
you.
very much.
How
She's got
great
the
is that?
smug mug,
I
Jim.
know, she does.
And she looks at you, too.
And she said beautiful faces,
That's
plural,
right. She said
which is
beautiful
shocking.
faces, plural. That's right. That Jim looks very smug in the smug mug.
That's
but
why it's called a
Liliana
smug mug.
does not mind. That
By the
was
way,
great.
we have some very good news courtesy of Jamie.
Yeah.
December 8th, not only will Philip Eng, who we like quite a bit, the relatively new head of the T, join us. He will join us for an hour to take questions from listeners
That's
on the
great.
T for Ask the, whatever his title is. I think he's the GM, head of the T. Again, write that down. December 8th, Philip Eng. And he doesn't shy away from stuff. He confronts
No,
at
he's
11
very
and
good.
12.
And-
He'll be doing Ask the GM with us right here on Boston Public Radio.
And don't forget, he inherited this mess.
He did
came
indeed.
from New York. This
He
was
did.
not
He
of
did. He
his
did.
making. Now,
But he
Dan,
fixed the mess on the Long Island Railroad, so there is hope.
Dan from Dorchester says, this year he's bringing smoked pork belly burned ends. He says he makes his own rub
I've had
with
that.
apple spices. I don't know what those are. Do you know what those are?
Pork belly?
Yeah.
You don't know what pork belly is?
No, I don't.
Yeah, you do.
I
know.
figure
You-
it's the
you do
belly
know.
of a pig.
I've actually brought you I bought you a dumpling with pork belly in it.
Okay.
You ate it and you
All
liked
right.
it. It's fatty, but it's, by the way, there's an AI, which hopefully we're not going to put up, of me eating cranberry sauce, which but not only does not look that much like me, the guy's missing a couple of teeth, but other than that, it's perfectly fine. Now let's go to Mark in New Hampshire. What are we talking about? Oh, we're talking about whether or not you
Thanksgiving.
embrace the traditional foods of Thanksgiving. Take it away, Mark.
Hi. The first year after my divorce, my ex-wife was a great cook. We always had a large turkey dinner for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I decided to outdo her, and I got a 25-pound turkey, made everything, baked pies. And there was so much left. I went around the table. I said, "What's wrong?" And everybody said, "I hate turkey. I don't like turkey." So I said, "What the hell did I work from 5 in the morning, and do all this work?" So the next year, I steamed lobster, baked potatoes, made salad, pecan pies, and everybody is happy. And we've had that for Thanksgiving ever since.
That is a fabulous story. Do you not miss the tradition of the other stuff, even if people don't like it?
No, because it's all about getting together with your family,
Exactly.
and the pies are the biggest part, and there's potatoes and salad and bread, and everybody's very happy eating a lobster that takes 15 minutes to steam instead of a 25-pound turkey that you have to wash in the sink and load into your oven and get up at dawn and baste, and, it's just crazy. But anyway,
You're
that's
a
my new
powerful
tradition.
voice for change. That's beautiful. Mark, thank you. No, I'm serious. That's pretty great. Mark,
That's right.
thank
You can outdo the X,
for the
too.
call.
You can absolutely
tell
outdo
me
the X.
you're not you eat lobster, I hope, don't you? You don't like lobster
Well, I
either?
might eat a claw if
What is
under
your-
duress.
what is the
You put it
problem?
in enough butter, it tastes great.
Meaning you don't
I don't
taste
know.
it.
I just
It's
don't.
like you and stuffing
exactly.
with gravy.
Well, it's the consistency too. It's not quite as rubbery as other parts of the lobster. So there are a lot of people who actually like canned cranberry sauce, Jim, just like I do. I'm not the only one.
With the ridges.
No, you don't have ridges.
Yes, you have ridges from the can.
I
Yes,
don't
you
think
do.
so. It's just round. It's in a round
I know,
can.
with ridges.
You turn
And then
it,
it comes
plop
out.
it right on the.
How do you
on the
feel
middle of
about
the table.
slicing a thing you eat out of a can? You slice. I mean, it's like a cylinder.
I don't
It
know.
pops out.
There's something
And you
suspicious
slice the.
about fresh cranberries. I hate to say that
You
people
ever
run
been
the
to a fresh
cranberry
cranberry
bugs down
bog?
the Cape. Yes, they're all over
How
the place
gorgeous
on the Cape.
are they?
They're very pretty.
Here's a good quiz. Do you know that we're not the largest? Check this, please, you guys. We're not
there's
the largest cranberry state anymore.
There are ridges on
Whatever.
there. Look at the ridges on the cranberry.
Exactly.
Never noticed
Thank
them. You know why I never noticed them?
'Cause you don't
they're
eat it.
sliced. They're sliced. You don't see them when they're sliced. 877-301-8970. We're talking about whether you stick with the traditions on Thanksgiving or whether
Wisconsin,
you don't.
thank you. Wisconsin is the largest cranberry state. Thank you, Nicole. I'm glad somebody's paying attention. Thank you there. What's your point?
You know what? This is a good point, too.
What is it?
Texter says people hate the dried out turkey. I mean, that's the real problem.
Well, you know what the
do feel
solution
it's
to that
very dry.
is?
Well, this
Excuse me.
person uses
Don't let it dry out.
Reynolds oven bags, and the problem is solved. You've heard about those, Jim?
Look at AI. Marjorie sad at Thanksgiving. No. First of all, you don't need to. Do you have an instant thermometer? Tell me you have an instant
I think I do. I think I do.
Meaning you don't,
I'm not
obviously.
cooking the turkey, Jim,
Okay,
so I don't have to worry about it.
Whoever's saying it dries out, you decide, you read what the temperature should be like in the breast. And then you would do, when it's almost time, you put the damn thermometer in the breast, and when it comes close to the temperature that you want, you take it out and let it cook the rest. You don't care at all.
No, I do. That's
I don't
very
think you
interesting.
do. I don't
That's
think
very
you think it
interesting.
is.
Lots of people think that you should get with the program, Jim, and say fixins.
I don't like the term.
Yeah, well.
Now, obviously, our coworkers, just to torture me, have done different fonts of fixins on the Comrex, which I do not appreciate.
Okay.
Where are we going?
We were going, I don't know where we're going. We're
I
waiting
don't
to get the instructions. We're going to Doreen in
Wait, before we go
Bristol.
to Doreen, we have one line open for a second. If anybody eats canned cranberry sauce other than on Thanksgiving, please call right away and explain yourself. Doreen in Bristol, Rhode Island.
What a
Hi.
beautiful town.
It is beautiful.
Thank you for calling.
What's up?
My first time calling.
Whoa, thank you.
All right, love you guys.
Thanks.
So my late husband was a Mayflower descendant.
Oh my goodness.
And I would make Thanksgiving dinner once a month.
Once a month?
With all the fixins. Yes.
There you go. all the fixins. You're a fixin' girl, just like me, Doreen.
And was that for you or for him? Who liked it?
Mostly for him and our daughters. Yep, they loved it. And a lot of times I only cook a turkey breast,
Oh.
not the whole bird.
Now, would you agree with me as a turkey breast cooker that if you're careful, it never dries out like Marjorie is complaining about, Doreen?
Correct. You have to baste it.
Exactly. You baste it and you temperature it, or
You know,
whatever
we
you call
just
it.
had
You
one of the
stick-
great chefs, cookbook writer in the world, say mayonnaise is the key.
Not the
with
key.
turkey.
It's one of the ways he cooks a
Yeah,
turkey.
you could cook a turkey in mayonnaise. I mean, that would keep it from drying out, wouldn't it, Doreen?
Doreen, did you really do
no,
once
but
a... What?
I did. I covered it in olive oil and sage leaves, wrapped it in foil, and threw it on the grill.
Beautiful. Whoa. Doreen, thank you for the call. You know, Shirley has a friend, and I know him, and I can't think of his name, so if he's listening, apologies, who fries a turkey every Thanksgiving. That's really dangerous. Do you know that?
Yeah, people have had
They
explosions
explode
and that stuff.
whatever.
And there's the famed turducken.
Turducken.
Yeah, that's
So what is the turducken? Do you know? I've eaten turducken. A friend of mine made it.
I think you have a hen inside a chicken inside a turkey. Isn't that what it is?
You in the hole in a turkey,
Mhm.
you stick in. I think you stick the chicken in the cavity.
Yeah.
And then you stick the duck, I think, in the cavity of the chicken. Turducken. Duck, and
yeah. And then we had the tofu turkey one year.
It's in like a square, a rectangular turkey. I mean,
that
that's
was
really
a problem.
not happening. Kind of thing.
And someone is telling me that you dump the cranberry sauce and use lingonberry sauce. Much better.
I never heard of it.
You can get it at any Scandinavian shop or at IKEA. I never heard of lingonberry sauce
Someone
either.
just sent us a picture of a tofurkey, which I do not even want to see.
Yeah, we tried the tofurkey.
We did one year.
It was not good.
Can I say one more thing before we're done?
Oh, Jane, we have people.
I know, but the show's over.
Okay.
You know how that works?
Just one little quick.
Okay, go ahead.
Jane from Salem, real quick.
Go ahead, real
quick,
Jane. Go ahead.
Hey, it's Jane from Salem. I think that there's a whole line of discussion that could take place with the whole cranberry out of a can versus the jellied cranberry
That's
sauce
actually
out of a can.
It's a very good point.
Where do you come down, Jane?
She's for the whole.
I come down with whole, absolutely. And one other thing,
Yeah.
I think there could be a little bit of northern snobbery going on with having difficulty with the term fiction.
There you go.
I believe
Guilty,
that
my
it's
friend.
From the South.
Well,
Just
guilty.
saying.
What can I say? Hey, Jane, thanks for
There
the
you
call.
go.
Sorry we ran out of time.
Yeah, thank you for listening to another edition of Boston Public Radio. Thank you to people who came down to the Boston Public Library. You can keep up with us 24/7 by way of our podcast. On Monday, we're going to have our transit panel with Jim Aloisi and Stacey Thompson. The Ground Truth Project's Charlie Sennett.
Sick.
Our media
Not
maven,
that.
Sue
I mean, these AI
O'Connell.
things are sick.
The Reverends Irene Monroe and Emma G. Price III, and poet Richard Blanco and his new collection, Homeland of My Body. I want to say that right after we're done at 2 o'clock, you got to tune in for the new culture show. Jared Bowen, Edgar B. Hurd III, and Callie Crossley are going to co-host another great show from 2 to 3. I want to thank our crew here at the library. Zoe Matthews, Aidan Conley, or not at the library in some cases, Nicole Garcia, Hannah Loss, additional support from Ethan Kotler. Our engineer is John the Claw Parker. Our executive producer is Jamie Bologna, who eats a lot of broccoli rabe, I think, on Thanksgiving, being a good Italian boy, something
That's
like that.
also delicious. And Liliana, when she makes it, she's not buying it Venus de Milo.
That's right, the
That's
Venus
what she
de Milo.
makes.
A lot of my life
How
has
great
gone
is she,
down
by
at
the
the
way?
Venus de Milo.
Is she one of the greats ever?
I'm glad they've fixed up the smell from the sewer. That was a problem.
What was it, like 40 years ago?
It was bad.
Okay.
Special thanks to the BPL team, Maddie Geyer and Matthew Glover. I'm Marjorie Egan.
I'm Jim Browdy.
Thank you very much for tuning in today.
See ya.
I hope you can tune in again on Monday for another great show. And have a good weekend.